Chapter 343. Ha ha, Chairman Su, long time no see. Count Stark had a very warm smile as he came to welcome Su-yi. It was different from a month ago when he became Banta City's city lord and immediately showed hostility to Su-yi and the new flyer. Today's Count Stark was like a different person. When he saw Su-yi, it was like he was seeing an old friend. His warm appearance made the surrounding people unable to stop their eyes from popping out. Su-yi also didn't have the same hostile appearance like when he first met him, rather he had the same warm smile. He respectfully gave Count Stark a bow. "Lord City Lord, to have you personally come out to welcome me, it really is an honor." It's nothing. Chairman Su, you are an honored guest that I specially invited today, so of course I have to properly welcome you. Come, please come in. Count Stark made an inviting gesture to Su-yi before his eyes fell onto Delil behind him, and a look of doubt flashed in his eyes. "This is the business manager of our company's plastic processing factory, young Miss Delil," Su-yi immediately explained. "As you can see, she is an elf from the Nightsong tribe." Facing Delil, Count Stark wasn't as warm. He just gave Delil a slight nod before leading the way into the city lord's manor. Su-yi followed Count Stag into the familiar banquet hall and saw that the chairmen of the other large companies of Banta City were already waiting in the hall. Seeing Count Stark personally lead Su-yi in, Chairman Cruz not far away waved his hand at Su-yi as a taunting smile appeared on his lips. Of course this wasn't directed at Su-yi, rather it was because of Count Stark's actions. In the short month that Count Stark had taken over as Banta City's city lord, because of his agricultural promotion policies, the companies of Banta City had been suppressed to varying degrees. The New Flyer and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce that had stood with the New Flyer had been targeted the most. The New Flyer had directly left Banta City, so their losses weren't that serious. As for the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, because their foundation in Banta City was too deep, they couldn't leave in a short period of time. So they were affected even more and suffered even more losses. Because of this, Chairman Cruz was very dissatisfied with Count Stark. Now that he had no choice but to change his attitude, he was forced to gather the chairmen of the large companies and even personally coming out to welcome Su-yi. Chairman Cruz was naturally filled with joy. Because to him, this meant that Count Stark had been forced to lower his proud head. Regarding this, Chairman Cruz was filled with schadenfreude. Other than Chairman Cruz, the other chairmen of the large companies all greeted Su-yi when they saw him come in. Although no one was as obvious as Chairman Cruz, based on the relaxed smiles on everyone's faces, they were also excited that Count Stark could change his attitude. In the end, these companies were all Banta City's companies. As the city lord of Banta City, if Count Stark was determined to carry out his agricultural promotion policies, suppressing the large companies, even if these companies had different powers behind them, they didn't have a better way to resist Count Stark. But speaking of this, it was because the large companies had different powers behind them that Count Stark's suppression of the large companies caused them to suffer losses. So even if Count Stark represented the stubborn conservative faction of the Lampari kingdom and had the support of the Stag family, he didn't dare go too far and had to compromise. But he didn't personally come out to greet anyone and only went out to greet Su-yi, which was really thought-provoking. After Su-yi entered the banquet hall, there were 3 more groups of guests that came in and all the guests were present. Count Stark came on stage to give a short opening speech before announcing the start of the banquet. Chairman Cruz immediately found Su-yi. "Hey, Chairman Su, is our beloved Lord City Lord using you as a target?" Chairman Cruz asked. "That shouldn't be the case." Su-yi shook his head. "Everyone knows that there is no way to reconcile our relationship, so no one will doubt me. He's only doing this to show me his attitude." "His attitude? You wouldn't think that he would turn around and support you, right?" Chairman Cruz said. "That's clearly impossible. According to my guess, this time, He just wants to cooperate with our Chamber of Commerce to relieve some of the pressure he's under. Sue was surprised. What does he want to cooperate with you for? You should ask him about this. Sue gave a shrug and moved to the side, revealing Delil behind him. Come, let's not discuss this meaningless matter. Let me introduce you. This is young Miss Delil, right? We met last time when young Miss Steele came to Banta City with her. Chairman Cruz cut off Sue's words and gave a slight bow before reaching out his right hand to Delil. I'm very happy to see you again, beautiful young Miss Delil. Delil hesitated a bit before reaching out her hand for Chairman Cruz to kiss before replying. I'm also very happy to see you, Your Excellency Chairman Cruz. Young Miss Steele introduced you to me last time, saying that you are Chairman Sue's best partner. Chairman Cruz laughed, of course. You can ask Chairman Sue if you don't believe me. Other than me, can he find a closer partner in Banta City? Sue said with a smile. Chairman Cruz is right. Right now, our new flyer has the closest relationship with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. But I don't know if the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce will be able to maintain this relationship with us in the future when they develop in other countries. Chairman Cruz's expression changed. He didn't care about the teasing in Sue's words as he asked Sue, have you reached an agreement with Newman? We haven't completely reached an agreement, but I feel that there shouldn't be a problem in the end. Before Newman left, he wanted me to persuade you that he hoped that your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce could recruit some local workers from the Kingdom of Roer, which would make it easier for them to support you. Sue said. You agreed to him? So aren't I persuading you? Sue spread his hands as he said this. Chairman Cruz was a bit surprised. Why did you agree to his suggestion? Could it be that you don't know that if we recruit local workers from the Kingdom of Roer, our company's technology will be stolen sooner or later? The technology is actually here, it isn't that easy to steal. Sue pointed at his head. What's more, if you want to maintain a leading position, the best way isn't to prevent the technology from leaking out, but to vigorously develop new technology on the basis of this foundation and maintain your own technological lead. Remember, technology is the foundation of industry. You make it sound good. Chairman Cruz smiled bitterly. You're not worried about this because New Flyer has too many leading technologies, so you're not afraid of losing one or two. Our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce doesn't have many leading technologies, so we can't be as extravagant as you. Have you heard of the phrase, technology in exchange for a market? Sue asked again. What does that mean? Simply put, it's to release your own unique technology and let everyone enjoy the convenience of this technology. Then you use this technology to impress everyone and make everyone need this technology. This way, there will naturally be a market for this technology. With your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's current situation, the faster you lay down a complete road network, the more beneficial it is for your company's interests. Sue said. Chairman Cruz frowned and thought for a while, then gently nodded. Maybe you're right, but I don't think there's a need to be so anxious. As long as our company continues to lay down the roads, a complete road network will be built sooner or later. At that time, everyone will still feel the convenience brought by the roads, and our company's business will still be good. Sue couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Compared to him, Chairman Cruz was a true businessman. He wanted the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to quickly lay down the roads and build a complete road network in order to further his next plan. But from the perspective of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, of course, he wasn't willing to do this. Because this way, it was equivalent to compressing their total profits and shortening their profit cycle. For an old company like the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce with a history of over 100 years, they naturally placed more emphasis on a long history. Sue knew that words alone wouldn't be able to convince Chairman Cruz. Using the words he just used to educate Delil, the only thing that could move a businessman was profit. Okay, Cruz, let's talk about a deal. Sue thought for a while and said. Hearing Sue ignore the title of chairman, Chairman Cruz raised his eyebrows. He immediately understood that what Sue was about to say was very important. His expression immediately became serious as he nodded to Sue and said seriously, "Go ahead. If your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce can complete the road network of the Lampari Kingdom, the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Principality of Constantine, and the Black Rice Wasteland within 5 years, then I'll create an extremely stable and promising source of profit for your company. What do you think about this deal?" Sue asked. Chairman Cruz looked at Sue in disbelief. If it wasn't for Sue's serious expression, he would have thought that Sue was joking. If Sue's deal involved money, technology, and other practical items, then he wouldn't be surprised at all. However, he didn't think that Sue would actually say that he wanted to create a source of profit for their company. Did he think that this was something that could be obtained just by saying it? If there was such a good thing, why didn't New Flyer use it for themselves? Because our New Flyer will only focus on the magic machine industry. Although this source of profit has great prospects and potential, it actually belongs to the business scope of your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. I have no interest in interfering, Sue said seriously. Chairman Cruz looked at Sue with confusion for a while. It belongs to our company's business scope? You're not talking about building houses, right? Sue smiled. That's right, building houses. Chapter 344. Seeing Chairman Cruz slowly leave with a thoughtful look on his face, DeLille couldn't help asking Sue, "Chairman Sue, didn't you say that for a merchant, the most important thing is profit? But according to what you just described, this new source of profit can bring great benefits, so why are you giving it to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce?" "It's not completely giving it to them," Sue replied with a smile. "You should be able to hear that this new source of profit is very beneficial to both the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and our New Flyer. If both sides cooperate and the effects are good, it will be a win-win situation. Although the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce benefits a bit more, our New Flyer doesn't have any foundation in the construction industry. If we want to monopolize it all, not mentioning success, we would have to spend a large amount of time and effort. For me, what I lack the most are these two things." DeLille was silent for a bit before suddenly saying, "No wonder the elders are worried about your lifespan. Chairman Sue, it would be good if you could have a lifespan of several hundred years like us elves." Sue laughed. "Life and death are decided by fate. I am a human, so I have to accept the limits of a human's lifespan. For me, it's enough to contribute to the things I want to do in my limited lifespan. Then again, it's not like I don't have a chance to become an archmagus or even a great archmagus, right?" DeLille was silent. "All right, since you know that life is short and time is precious, let's not waste any more time here. Come with me." Sue waved his hand at DeLille, and led her to the other chairmen of the large companies in the banquet hall. The reason why he brought DeLille here was to let her use this banquet to meet the chairman of the large companies in Banta City, so that she could find a chance to cooperate with them. With Sue's face and their curiosity towards the elves, the chairman of the other companies naturally wouldn't reject talking to DeLille. After DeLille passed her initial nervousness and discomfort, she quickly adapted to talking to everyone. Although she still couldn't be as tactful as an ordinary human merchant, given her identity as an elf, her reaction made it easier for her to gain the other party's trust. Therefore, after a few short conversations, several presidents expressed their intentions to cooperate with the Night Song Plastic Processing Factory. Of course, these chambers of commerce did have the same demand for plastic products as Big Sister Sarah. They promised that as long as DeLille was able to produce acceptable plastic products, they would definitely place an order through DeLille. Seeing that DeLille was gradually adapting to the atmosphere, Sue retreated to the side and let her face it alone. President Vincent of the Armani Chamber of Commerce, who had been waiting on the side, immediately came over. When Sue saw him, he immediately smiled and asked, Hey, President Vincent, I heard that you've been investigating the Black Rice Wasteland for over 2 months. What's the result? Hearing this question, President Vincent's expression was a bit strange. I don't know if it's good or bad. The good news is that the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland don't have the ability to make clothes. Moreover, they are very fond of the clothes that we humans wear, so theoretically the market is very wide. Then what's the bad news? The bad news is that the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland are all extremely poor. For them, even if they can use their limited resources to exchange for things from us humans, they would still prioritize their needs like salt and other necessities. As for clothes, I've visited many beastmen tribes and found that many beastmen don't care if they wear clothes or not. I've even seen over 10 beastmen tribes where all the beastmen are naked, no different from wild beasts. Seeing the bitter smile on President Vincent's face, Sue smiled and said, "This reminds me of a joke from my hometown. There was a company that made shoes that sent 2 salesmen to investigate the beastmen tribes. One of the salesmen was very depressed after the investigation and came back to report that the beastmen didn't wear shoes. The other salesman was wild with joy after the investigation and came back to report that it was great. Those beastmen didn't wear shoes at all." President Vincent laughed. "Chairman Sue, are you mocking my hesitation? I'm just reminding you. For something like a market, you can create something that doesn't exist before. For example, look at the wolfmen of the Valar tribe. Aren't they already wearing clothes?" Sue said. "That's right. The beastmen who didn't wear clothes before, we can make them wear clothes. However, how do we get them to wear clothes? That's the problem." President Vincent frowned and fell into deep thought. "I'll give you a hint. Our new flyer is planning to invest in a household magic machine factory near the Valar tribe this year, specifically to make household magic machines," Sue said. President Vincent was surprised. "Why? If it's finished, shouldn't it be built in the Falling Rain Valley? No matter how you look at it, this is much more convenient and safer than the Black Rice Wasteland, right? The key point is the cost," Sue explained. "Speaking of the Black Rice Wasteland, perhaps everyone feels that it is rather far, but if you compare it on a map, you will find that the Black Rice Wasteland is closer to the north of the kingdom than Banta City, even directly bordering the Sac Kingdom to the north. Adding in the fact that the terrain is flat, if the roads are built, it would be closer to the north of the kingdom than Banta City." "You mean that we're relying on this to save on transport costs? But I still feel that it isn't safe to build a factory in the Black Rice Wasteland that is controlled by the beastmen," President Vincent said while shaking his head. "Then do you think that our 3 companies' mines near the Valar tribe and the non-ferrous metal smelting factory in the new city are safe?" Sue asked. "It's also not safe, otherwise your 3 companies wouldn't have that many guards in the mines. This is only for now. After a while, you'll find that it is very safe there. If someone attacks the mines and the non-ferrous metal smelting factory, I'm certain that the reaction of the Valar tribe and the surrounding beastmen tribes will be even stronger than ours," Sue said with a smile. "Why?" President Vincent was stunned. President Vincent said with a smile, "Because in the mines and the factory, our 3 companies have hired many beastmen from the Valar tribe and the surrounding beastmen tribes as workers. If the mines and the factory are attacked and they can't work, it will affect their wages. Do you think that they can finally get a fixed wage each month and can use this wage to buy things from our human companies? The beastmen who have been living their dreams for a few months would be willing to have their lives destroyed?" Seeing the strange smile on Sue's face, President Vincent couldn't help being stunned before asking, "Chairman Sue, this wouldn't have been your plan from the beginning, right?" Sue smiled without replying. President Vincent thought for a bit before letting out a long sigh. "I think I understand what you mean. Letting these beastmen have stable wages through stable jobs and live stable lives, naturally they won't be willing to return to their previous poor lives. But like this, it's equal to wiping out the wildness of these beastmen and taming them. Moreover, this will allow these beastmen to gradually have the economic power to buy things other than daily necessities. For example, the clothes produced by our Armani Chamber of Commerce? Sui nodded with a smile. That's right. President Vincent, now do you know why I said that the market can be created? According to my thoughts, not only will these beastmen wear clothes in the future, each beastman family will use our new Flyers magic machines. There are over 500,000 beastmen on the Black Rice Wasteland. This is a market that is equal to several Banta cities. President Vincent couldn't help shaking his head as he said with a sigh, Chairman Su, I have to say, you're thinking too far into the future. The beastmen aren't that different from wild beasts right now, but you're thinking of letting them use those magic machines that even us humans think are very high-end. I really don't know if I should say that your idea is too advanced or too crazy. Ha ha, sometimes ideas that are too far ahead are no different from crazy people. Sui said with a laugh, whether I'm considered a prophet or a crazy person, the most important thing is whether this matter will succeed or not. So, President Vincent, even if you didn't come looking for me, I would have come looking for you. How about it? Are you interested in investing in a few cotton knitting factories in the Black Rice Wasteland like me? I can promise you that investing in the Black Rice Wasteland will save quite a bit of money. Other than transportation costs, it will save a lot on human cost. What do you mean? President Vincent asked in a curious voice, clearly a bit moved. Do you know how much we give the beastmen workers in the mines a month? Sui asked. According to your meaning, it should be lower than the workers in our Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's mines, right? Then it should be no more than 15 gold coins? President Vincent guessed. No, it's only 5 gold coins. Sui raised his hand. So little? President Vincent's eyes widened in surprise. President Vincent's eyes widened. How could the beastmen agree to such a low wage? On the contrary, the beastmen are very satisfied with this wage, and have even expressed their gratitude to me, President Cruz, and President Renersa many times. The workers in our new Flyers non-ferrous metal smelting factory have an even lower wage, only 4 gold coins a month. Those beastmen are still grateful to me, the chairman, so they give me their most sincere blessings every time they see me. Sui said in a proud voice. This. President Vincent was still in a bit of disbelief, but thinking about it, he felt that it was very reasonable. The beastmen couldn't earn any gold coins before, so even if they used things to exchange, they could only exchange for a few resources from human merchants. Now that they could directly receive shiny gold coins, they could also use these gold coins to buy the goods they needed from the humans. Of course, this would greatly improve their standard of living. For them, it was already good enough to have a wage, so how could they have a wage as high as the workers in Banta City? Chairman Vincent quickly calculated the difference in wages and the cost of transporting the good. When he compared it in the end, he was surprised to find that according to the wages Sui mentioned for the beastmen workers, if he opened a factory on the Black Rice Wasteland, it would greatly decrease the cost. After coming to this conclusion, President Vincent's expression looking at Sui became very strange. This fellow, how did he think of this? Chapter 345. After discussing some details with President Vincent, Count Stark sent someone to invite Sui into the side hall as expected. But to Sui's surprise, after entering the side hall, besides Count Stark, there were 2 other people he didn't recognize. Come, Chairman Su, let me introduce you. These 2 are Miss Carolyn and Mr. Anjuin from the Drake Duchy. Seeing Sui come in, Count Stark got up first and introduced him to the other man and woman. Then he pointed at Sui and introduced him. Miss Carolyn, this is new Flyers President Sui. Sui noticed that when Count Stark introduced him, he put Miss Carolyn first. In other words, her status should be higher than Anjuin's. Sure enough, after listening to Count Stark's introduction, Miss Carolyn extended her slender right hand to Sui and said with a brilliant smile, Chairman Su, I've heard of your name for a long time and have always wanted to meet you. Today, I'm finally able to meet you in person. I feel very happy and honored." When his gaze fell on Miss Caroline's face, Su Yi's eyes suddenly lit up. It had been 5 years since he came to Signs, and Su Yi had seen countless young and beautiful girls. But before this, there wasn't a single girl who could compare to Steele's incomparable beauty. But now, Steele had clearly met her match. This Miss Caroline wasn't the least bit inferior to Steele in terms of appearance. But unlike Steele's bright and sunny appearance, this Miss Caroline's facial features were softer. Combined with her watery eyes, she gave off a charming feeling. But the feeling she gave off was completely different from Steele. Su Yi gently shook her hand and said with a smile, "It's my honor to be appreciated by such a beautiful lady. However, Miss Caroline, why have you always wanted to see me?" Miss Caroline pursed her lips and gently smiled. Her eyes moved slightly as she gave Su Yi a somewhat coquettish look. "Of course it's because I've seen the magic machines produced by your new flyer, so I'm curious about the people who can make these magic machines. Chairman Su, I'm really curious. How did you come up with the idea of creating those novel yet useful magic machines?" "Well, you can think of it as a flash of inspiration in my mind." Su Yi laughed and then turned to Count Stark and said, "Sir City Lord, you specifically called me here and let me see these 2 distinguished guests. Do you have something to discuss?" Count Stark frowned slightly and then nodded with a smile, motioning for Su Yi to sit down with the other 2. After everyone sat down, Count Stark gave a soft cough and said to Su Yi, "Chairman Su, first I want to give you an explanation. During this time, there has been a rumor spreading around Banta City. It's said that the agricultural promotion policy that I implemented, as well as the land rezoning that I started, were all aimed at you and the new flyer. I have to say that this wasn't my intention, it was just some people who misunderstood me." Su Yi saw the sincere expression on Count Stark's face and forced down his smile. He gave a slight nod and forced himself to say in a sincere voice, "I understand. If the Lord City Lord really wanted to target me and the new flyer, how could our new flyer still be living well? Don't you think so, Lord City Lord?" Count Stark's face slightly trembled before he gave a laugh. "Of course that is impossible. As Banta City's City Lord, although I place more importance on agricultural development, there is no reason to push our Banta City's companies to the brink of death. This is clearly impossible, so Chairman Su, you have to understand this to avoid being misled by a villain." "I understand." Su Yi nodded. He was too lazy to waste time with Count Stark on these meaningless words, so he continued asking, "So Lord City Lord, let's talk business." "All right, Chairman Su treasures time this much, it's no wonder he's this successful." Count Stark praised before nodding to young Miss Caroline and Mr. Anjuin. Then he said to Su Yi, "Chairman Su, I just introduced young Miss Caroline and Mr. Anjuin to you, but I didn't introduce them to you. Now I'll introduce them to you. Young Miss Caroline is the Drake Duchy's youngest daughter and Mr. Anjuin is the Drake Duchy's business minister." Su Yi was a bit surprised. He quickly stood up and solemnly gave the 2 of them a noble's bow. "So it was Her Highness Princess Caroline, I really was rude just now." Princess Caroline and Prime Minister Anjuin also stood up to return the bow. Princess Caroline said with a faint smile, "This isn't a formal occasion, Viscount Su doesn't need to mind." Because Su Yi had given her a noble's bow, Princess Caroline had changed the way she called Su Yi from Chairman Su to Viscount Su. Anjuin also said with a nod, "Viscount Su, you don't need to mind this. Actually, Her Highness and I have come to see you this time because we hope to cooperate with the new flyer in business, so we want to call you Chairman Su. Do you understand what I mean? Business cooperation?" Su Yi looked at Count Stark with a bit of confusion. This Count Stark was clearly suppressing the new flyer, so why did he take the initiative to bring him this kind of guest? As for the Drake Duchy, according to Su Yi's knowledge of signs, He knew that it shared a border with the Lampari kingdom to the northeast and also shared a border with the Sac kingdom. It was a small duchy that was right between the Lampari kingdom and the Sac kingdom. Although they were both duchies, the Drake Duchy had a better evaluation than the Principality of Constantine because it could survive between the Lampari kingdom and the Sac kingdom for several hundred years. It could be seen that the Drake family that ruled this duchy had some skills. But because the Drake Duchy was connected to the Lampari kingdom's northeast border and Banta City was in the southwest of the Lampari kingdom, it was close to 1,000 kilometers in a straight line. This Princess Caroline and Anjouan were both important people of the Drake Duchy, but they actually spent this much time and traveled this far to come to Banta City just to see Sui. It could be seen that they were very sincere. But what Sui was very curious about was that, if it was a normal business cooperation, this Anjouan who was the Minister of Commerce should have personally come to talk to Sui, but why did Her Highness Princess Caroline also come? Because I really want to see Chairman Su. Faced with Sui's question, Her Highness Princess Caroline revealed a sweet smile and said, "I've been interested in magic since I was young, but because my talent isn't high, my magic power has always been weak. I can only be interested in some small things that can be made with magic. Since I was young, I imagined that since magic was this amazing, there would be many amazing things that could be made with magic, achieving things that we humans can't do with our own strength. These things rarely appeared on the continent before and I didn't have the ability to research them, so I always felt regret about this. But after seeing the various amazing magic machines that your new flyer makes, I've found that my regret has finally been made up for. Chairman Su, can you understand my excitement when I see those magic machines?" Seeing Princess Caroline come closer with an excited look of pleasant surprise on her face, Sui revealed a smile. He looked up a bit and avoided looking at her snow-white chest that was revealed when she leaned over. "I never thought that Princess Caroline would have the same interest as me when I was young. The creation of these magic machines originated from my childhood fantasy in this field. To be able to make so many different kinds of magic machines, it can be said that my dream has been fulfilled." Princess Caroline sighed softly and said, "Chairman Su, if only I could have met you when I was young. That way we could have shared the same dream, grown up together, and researched magic machines together." Sui coughed softly, feeling that Princess Caroline's words were a bit insincere. Besides, he grew up on Earth. No matter how much Princess Caroline had the same dream as him, it was impossible for them to grow up together. If Princess Caroline still has this dream, it's not impossible to start researching magic machines from now on. Sui revealed a smile before turning to Anjouan to say, "Mr. Anjouan, the business cooperation you mentioned just now, what is it?" Anjouan pondered for a moment and said, "Chairman Su, I heard that new flyer has already started cooperating with the Principality of Constantine and the Kingdom of Ruhr?" "That's right." Sui nodded. "Then Chairman Su, if our Drake Duchy wants to have a deeper cooperation with your new flyer, are you willing to accept?" "I am a merchant," Sui said with a faint smile. "As long as we can earn money, there's no problem with a deeper cooperation. But Mr. Anjouan, you still haven't told me how we should cooperate?" I've heard that the Kingdom of Ruhr has bought several tens of thousands of agricultural magic machines from your company. Although our Drake Duchy needs these agricultural magic machines, I feel that simply buying them isn't enough to solve the problem. So I represent Duke Drake to sincerely invite the new flyer to invest in our Drake Duchy. Not only do we want to build a factory that produces agricultural magic machines, we want to build a factory that produces all the magic machines your company is currently producing," Anjouan said with a heroic wave of his hand. "This idea isn't bad and I agree with it in theory. But," Sui revealed a faint smile, "it's not realistic in practice." Chapter 346. The other three were stunned at the same time. Princess Caroline was the first to ask in a surprised voice, "Why? Chairman Su, since you're willing to invest in the Kingdom of Ruhr and the Principality of Constantine, why can't you invest in our Drake Duchy? I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I feel that Mr. Anjuin's idea isn't too realistic, or rather it isn't realistic at the current stage." Su-yi said. "Why isn't it realistic?" Princess Caroline kept asking. "Because of distance," Su-yi said. "Your Highness, Mr. Anjuin, I think you should know that although the Drake Duchy shares a border with our Lampari Kingdom, it is close to 1,000 kilometers away from our Banta city. This is a very far distance right now, and with the current strength of our company, investing in a place that far away is something that can't be assured." "Why can't you be assured?" Princess Caroline asked. "The Kingdom of Ruhr's capital, Caracas City, is close to 1,000 kilometers away from Banta City, so it isn't that much closer than our Drake Duchy. Why are you assured investing in the Kingdom of Ruhr and not investing in our Drake Duchy?" Su-yi revealed a faint smile. "Your Highness, the Kingdom of Ruhr and our Lampari Kingdom are close allies, so there isn't any danger investing in the Kingdom of Ruhr, so I'm assured." Princess Caroline knit her brows. "Could it be that you want to say that our Drake Duchy isn't safe enough?" "I'm not worried about your Drake Duchy, rather I'm worried about your good neighbors," Su-yi said with a smile. Princess Caroline and Anjuin both understood at the same time. "So you're worried about the Sac Kingdom?" Princess Caroline and Anjuin looked at each other before persuading Su-yi again. "Chairman Su, I think you don't need to worry about this at all. Although the Sac Kingdom is hostile to your Lampari Kingdom, they have always been friendly with our Drake Duchy, so they won't affect your company's investment in our duchy at all." Anjuin also said, "Your Highness is right, even if the Sac Kingdom is hostile to your Lampari Kingdom, it isn't related to your company investing in our duchy. This is just a normal business cooperation. The Sac Kingdom won't do anything to your company in our Drake Duchy because of this. If they really dared to do this, that would be declaring hostility to our duchy. This is something that the Sac Kingdom has been avoiding for many years, so you don't need to worry." Su-yi of course knew that Anjuin was telling the truth. The reason why the Drake Duchy could survive between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom for this long, other than their strength not being weak, it was also because the Lampari Kingdom and the Drake Duchy were both trying to win them over, so they didn't dare offend them. This was because for the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom, who were close in strength, as long as the Drake Duchy joined either side, it would tilt the balance between the two sides and cause a sudden change in the situation. This was something that neither side was willing to see, so the Drake Duchy had always been able to easily deal with both sides. But the main reason why Su-yi rejected Anjuin's suggestion wasn't because of safety considerations. Rather, if he chose to invest in the Drake Duchy at this time, it would disrupt his plans for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. According to his long-term plan, if the new flyer wanted to develop steadily, they had to first lay a firm foundation in Banta City. This was already done for now. Even if Count Stark came forcefully and targeted the new flyer, he couldn't do a thing to the new flyer. Next was to develop the new flyer throughout the Lampari Kingdom, allowing the magic machine industry to cover the entire kingdom, completely changing the appearance and national strength of the Lampari Kingdom. This was temporarily hindered because the current political situation in the Lampari Kingdom wasn't clear. So Su-yi brought forward the next step of his plan, which was to bring forward his plans to invest in other countries. This would allow the new flyer to expand and their tentacles could reach more places in signs. Su-yi was very careful with this step. Whether it was in the Principality of Constantine or the Rudsun Duchy, the new flyer's investments were very careful. At least there was an 80% chance that nothing would go wrong before Su-yi was willing to invest. So although it seemed like the new flyer had cooperated with the Kingdom of Ruhr and the Principality of Constantine many times, the new flyer still hadn't established any factories in these two places. At this time, the Drake Duchy that was thousands of miles away suddenly came to invite Sue to invest in them, so of course Sue wouldn't immediately agree. But Sue couldn't completely block it. After all, the Drake Duchy was a country that bordered the Lampari Kingdom, so in the long-term expansion plan of the new flyer, it was an area that they had to cover. Seeing the sincere expressions of Princess Caroline and Anjuin, Sue thought about it before saying, "How about this? It's not realistic to have our company invest in the Drake Duchy right now, but there's no problem with our initial cooperation. There is a saying in my hometown that one shouldn't think of becoming a fatty in one bite. So we can cooperate step by step, and when it reaches a certain level, we can truly invest in them. But before that, I hope that you won't be too impatient." Princess Caroline and Anjuin looked at each other before Anjuin nodded. "I admit that Chairman Sue's words are very reasonable." "Then Chairman Sue, where do you think is most suitable for our initial cooperation?" Sue was a bit stunned before instantly understanding. This Anjuin didn't think that he would agree to fully invest in the Drake Duchy. He was just asking for a price that was as high as the sky and as low as the ground. He didn't agree to fully invest in the Drake Duchy, but he had already agreed to cooperate with the Drake Duchy without him noticing. After understanding this, Sue couldn't help shaking his head. Sure enough, a person that could become the business minister of a duchy definitely wasn't a simple and hot-blooded youth that wanted the new flyer to fully invest in them. But this didn't have any special effect since Sue wasn't against investing in the Drake Duchy. "I don't know much about the Drake Duchy, so it should be up to you to suggest where we should cooperate. What does your duchy need, and what can our company provide? After knowing this, we can discuss the specifics of our cooperation, right?" Sue asked back. "That's right," Anjuin said with a laugh. "But Chairman Sue, I'm afraid we need to understand your company a bit more. So in the following time, Her Highness and I will have to disturb you." "You're welcome." Sue revealed a warm smile. "It is our honor to have a guest from afar inspect our company." "Good. Chairman Sue, starting tomorrow, we hope that we can inspect the Falling Rain Valley. I hope that you can make your preparations," Anjuin said. "Definitely. Chairman Sue, see you in a bit." Princess Caroline waved her hand at Sue before leaving the side hall with Anjuin with a smile. "See you in a bit?" Sue was puzzled as he watched Princess Caroline and Anjuin leave. He turned to the silent Count Stantine, and the smile on his face faded as he calmly asked, "Sir City Lord, is there anything you need to tell me in private?" "It's not an explanation, but there is something I need your help with." After Princess Caroline and Anjuin left, the smile on Count Stark's face faded. Although there was still a smile on his face, it was mixed with a trace of coldness. "You need my help? Sir City Lord is too polite. If you have something to say, just say it," Sue said. Count Stark looked at Sue and after confirming that Sue didn't resist, he said with a nod, "All right, I represent the City Lord Manor to make a request to the new flyer. Since Banta City is about to enter the fall harvest, in order to ensure that the fall harvest goes smoothly and Banta City's grain yield, I want the new flyer to repair all the agricultural magic machines in Banta City within half a month. If there are any damaged ones, they must be repaired or replaced within half a month. Do you understand what I mean?" "I don't understand." Sue shook his head. "Sir City Lord, all the agricultural magic machines in Banta City are sold by our new flyer, so of course our company will be responsible for their after-sales service. If there is a problem with any agricultural magic machine, the buyer will report it to our service center. I think that we won't need to do an extra inspection, right? I've already said it, this is to ensure that the fall harvest goes smoothly," Count Stark said with a frown. "All right, since it is the City Lord Manor's request, I represent the new flyer in accepting it. But..." Sue looked at Count Stark and revealed a faint smile. "As for the extra cost, may I ask the Lord City Lord who will pay it?" Count Stark gave a cold snort. What? The fall harvest is the most important matter in Banta City. You want to haggle over a trivial contribution from your new flyer? Chairman Sue, in front of this important matter, I urge you not to act like a merchant. Don't forget, other than being a merchant, you are also a noble of the kingdom. Sui gave a shrug. All right, I understand. I represent the new flyer in accepting the Lord City Lord's arrangements. Count Stark gave another snort before continuing. Other than this, according to the results, I've found that if we want to cultivate all the farmland in Banta City, we need around 3,000 agricultural magic machines. I represent the City Lord Manor to ask your new flyer to hand over 3,000 agricultural magic machines to the City Lord Manor within half a month. Sui slightly raised a brow and raised his voice to say, Lord City Lord, our new flyer has a lot of orders for agricultural magic machines, so the production is very heavy. If we hand over 3,000 units to the City Lord Manor in half a month, I'm afraid it will affect the other orders. I don't care. This is the City Lord Manor's order, you have to accept it. Count Stark waved his hand as he said this. Seeing that Count Stark was acting this unreasonable, Sui let out a sigh of relief. He slowed down and leaned back in his chair. Looking at Count Stark, he asked with a faint smile, Then may I ask the Lord City Lord, will our new flyer pay for these 3,000 agricultural magic machines? Count Stark's face twitched before he finally gritted his teeth and said, No, these 3,000 agricultural magic machines will be paid by the City Lord Manor. The smile on Suyi's face became even wider. Chapter 347. The Falling Star Manor was tranquil and peaceful at night. However, it was different from the dead silence of the other nights in this month. Tonight, besides the chirping of insects that had never stopped since the beginning of summer, the Falling Star Manor could also hear the crisp sounds of pots and pans colliding with each other, as well as the exploding sounds of dishes being fried in the pot. Vivian, Liz, and Linda were preparing dinner that was at least 2 hours late. The reason why it was much later than normal was because Sui had come back from the Falling Rain Valley today. Although he was going to attend the City Lord's banquet, he clearly informed Vivian and the others that he wouldn't be able to eat much at the banquet, so he would come back to fill his stomach. Therefore, Vivian and the others decided to delay their own dinner. Estimating the time, they felt that the City Lord's banquet should be over soon, so they began to prepare dinner. Although the Falling Star Manor was given to Sui by Chairman Cruz as a gift for his engagement with Steele, and Sui and Steele treated this place as their new residence after getting married, Sui and Steele had spent most of their time in the Falling Rain Valley and had never come back to live here. Because Vivian was still studying at Baron Ricto Magic Academy, it wasn't convenient for her to travel 60 kilometers to the Falling Rain Valley with Sui, so Sui had her live here. He also had Liz and Linda, the 2 female slaves from the Principality of Constantine, stay with her. The 3 of them had lived in the Falling Star Manor for over a month, so they were already used to everything here. It was very comfortable living here. Hey, Agnes, can you go outside and see if Master is coming back soon? Vivian saw that all the dishes were about to be finished, so she called out to Agnes, who was leaning against the door and was being forced by Vivian not to cook. Agnes turned to look at the darkness outside the door, and then turned to look at the kitchen that she couldn't help with. She hesitated a bit before replying. When she was about to turn around, her long sharp ears suddenly moved and her face revealed a happy expression. The chairman is already back. Then she revealed a look of doubt. Strange, it seems like he isn't the only one. Really? Master even brought guests back? Vivian glanced at the sumptuous dishes in the kitchen, but she wasn't alarmed. Instead, she asked, Can you tell how many people are there? Agnes' expression became even more doubtful. He only brought a guest, and from the sound of her footsteps, it seems to be a girl. A girl? Vivian was puzzled. Sister Steele clearly accompanied Stasia and the others to Anvilmar City. What kind of girl would Master bring back? I don't know. Agnes shook her head. After thinking for a bit, she guessed, perhaps it's the chairman's new lover. I heard that this kind of thing is very normal for humans of higher status. Perhaps. Vivian hesitated. But I don't think Master is that kind of person. After thinking for a moment, Vivian shook her head vigorously. Don't worry about it. Even if she's Master's lover, she's still a guest. Liz, Linda, you two stay here and take care of the last few dishes. Agnes, let's go out and welcome Master. When Vivian and Agnes walked out of the manor's gates, they saw two figures walk out of the darkness, falling into the light of the two high-hanging magic lamps outside the manor's gates. Vivian's eyes passed over Sue before falling onto Princess Caroline beside him. Her eyes opened wide in shock as she gave a soft gasp. Wah, this girl is actually as beautiful as Big Sister Steel. Could she really be Master's lover? Agnes looked over Princess Kalinda with a face of doubt. Is that so? Why do I feel like she's not as pure as young Miss Steele? With the beauty standards of us elves, this girl isn't beautiful at all. The chairman's eyes wouldn't be this bad, right? Vivian looked at Agnes in surprise, not understanding why she would give this kind of evaluation to the girl beside Sue who was as beautiful as steel. She then thought that it should be because the beauty standards of elves and humans were different, so she didn't argue and quickly went forward. Master, you're back, Vivian said to Sue with a sweet smile. Sue nodded. He looked at Agnes behind him and asked in a strange voice, Agnes, why are you here today? Weren't you still on the Black Rice Wasteland a few days ago? The matters on the Black Rice Wasteland have already ended, so I came back to report. Agnes replied with a smile before nodding at Princess Caroline. Chairman, who is this human young miss? Seeing that Vivian also revealed a look of curiosity, Sue introduced her to the two of them. This is Princess Caroline from the Drake Duchy. She is representing the Drake Duchy this time to discuss some matters of cooperation with our new flyer. Agnes nodded and didn't have any special reaction. When Vivian heard that this girl was actually a princess, she couldn't help bending her knees and giving a bow. Sue grabbed her and said in a deep voice with knit brows, Vivian, did you forget what I told you many times? Vivian was stunned before her face turned red. She lowered her head and said in a soft voice, Sorry, Master, I forgot for a moment. Sue shook his head and said to the confused Princess Caroline on the side, Your Highness, this elven girl is called Agnes, she is our new flyer's designer. This human girl is called Vivian, she is also our company's designer. Most of the household magic machines our company produces are designed by the two of them. Princess Caroline looked at Agnes and Vivian in shock. God, I've always been guessing who designed the beautiful designs of the magic machines, but I never thought that it would be a beautiful elven young miss and a similarly beautiful and cute human girl. This really is too surprising. Agnes didn't have any special reaction, but Vivian's face turned red and she didn't say a word. Your Highness, you don't seem surprised to see elves? Could it be that elves are common in the Drake Duchy? Sue asked. No, there hasn't been an elf in our duchy for several hundred years. Princess Caroline shook her head. But after I saw those strange magic machines, I began paying attention to New Flyer and Chairman Sue. I know that your new flyer has a close relationship with the elves and your company even employs many elves, so I wasn't surprised. Of course, this is the first time I've seen elves since I was young, so I'm actually very pleasantly surprised. Is that so? Sue laughed and didn't care that much, as he signaled for Princess Caroline to enter the manor. At this time, Liz and Linda had already prepared dinner. Seeing the sumptuous meal on the table, without needing Sue's invitation, Princess Caroline took the initiative to mention that she didn't eat anything at the City Lord Manor's banquet, so she hoped that she could try these sumptuous dishes. Of course Sue wouldn't reject her, so he sat down with Princess Caroline. Because there was an outsider like Princess Caroline here, the atmosphere at the table was a bit heavy. However, Princess Caroline's social skills were clearly superb. She easily used the question of how Vivian designed those magic machines to reinvigorate the atmosphere at the dining table. After the late dinner was finished in a happy atmosphere, Sue led Princess Caroline to pick a guest room before having Liz lead her to take a bath and change her clothes. When Princess Caroline left, Vivian curiously asked Sue, "Master, isn't this princess your lover?" Sue almost spat out the mouthful of water he was drinking. He looked at Vivian in astonishment and asked, "What lover? What nonsense are you talking about?" Vivian was puzzled. "If she isn't your lover, why would she follow you back to your residence alone? Isn't this too strange?" "Don't talk about you, I'm also puzzled." Sue unhappily waved his hand. After the previous conversation, Princess Caroline said to Sue that she would see him in a while before leaving. Sue didn't understand what she meant, but when he finished his conversation with Count Stark and was about to return to the Falling Star Manor to rest, Princess Caroline once again appeared in the company of Count Stark. Then, much to Sue's surprise, she expressed her wish to stay the night at Sue's manor. The reason she gave at that time was that she wanted to take advantage of the night to discuss the details of the cooperation between the two sides with Sue. Sue didn't think too much and agreed. But when Sue discovered that she actually followed him into the carriage alone without Anjuin, no matter how slow Sue was when it came to matters between men and women, he knew that there was definitely a problem. But today was clearly the first time he had met Princess Caroline. Why would she do this? Sue didn't think that he had enough charm to make a dignified princess fall in love with him to the point that she wanted to devote herself to him. "Then what should we do tonight?" Vivian was a little stunned. "If she isn't your lover, I think Big Sister Steele will be unhappy if she knows that you brought her home." Sue was also stunned. He asked back, "You mean that if she is my lover, Steele won't be unhappy?" "Yes, with Master's status, it would be strange if you don't have a lover," Vivian said matter-of-factly. "Big Sister Steele also told me last time that if you want to find a lover, you must find one who is beautiful enough. Otherwise, she will feel very embarrassed. This Princess Caroline is very beautiful. I think Big Sister Steele will be very satisfied." "What nonsense is this?" Sue forcefully waved his hand. "Steele is just teasing you. If I really found a lover, do you believe that Steele would cut me to death? Big Sister Steele wouldn't be that fierce, right?" Vivian patted her small chest that was gradually growing and said with a bit of fear, "I was planning to wait until Big Sister Steele came back and tell her what happened tonight to make her happy. So it wasn't like that." Sue couldn't help rolling his eyes. "Alright, just treat her like a normal guest. Anyway, I'll be going to the Falling Rain Valley tonight and she won't be here for long. Just contact her as little as possible in the future, so as to not make Steele angry." Sue thought for a bit before standing up and ordering, "I'm going to the study, don't let anyone disturb me." "That's right, Agnes, come with me. I have some things I need to tell you." Agnes agreed and followed Sue to the study. Vivian looked at Sue's back and then looked in the direction of Princess Caroline's bath. Her little face was filled with doubt. Chapter 348. Sue didn't give Agnes many things. It was mainly related to the design research facility. Now that New Flyer was producing more and more magic machines, each product was already divided into different models. For example, for the first time, bicycles would be divided into male and female models. In the following days, they would also introduce adult and children models. Each model would be further divided into luxury, fashion, minimalist, and so on. As for the household magic machines, Sue was also planning on dividing them into different models. For example, the magic air conditioner was currently divided into the single cold magic air conditioner and the variable temperature magic air conditioner. When it was first released, Sue had only decided on these two categories. But now that the Academy of Magic was researching the magic array of the magic air conditioner, they could adjust the power of the magic air conditioner. So Su-Yi was planning on dividing the air conditioners according to Earth standards, dividing them into different power levels to meet different needs. The same division would be applied to the other household magic machines, so this created a problem. Since they were different models, it would be too monotonous if they were to use the same design. According to the customs of Earth, different products naturally had different designs. Not only was it to differentiate the different models, it was also to give people more visual sensations. Like this, Agnes and Vivian, who were in charge of designing the new flyer, weren't enough. Vivian was currently studying at Baron Ricto Magic Academy, so she didn't have enough time to work. This meant that most of the design work was focused on Agnes. Even if the elves were full of energy, Agnes' time was limited. So Su-Yi found Agnes in hopes that she could find some other elves from the Nightsong tribe with talent in designing to join the Design Institute, helping Agnes finish the design work. Hearing Su-Yi's orders, Agnes' face instantly filled with joy. "Chairman, even if you didn't say anything, I was prepared to ask you about this," Agnes said. "I already feel that I don't have enough time. Other than the exterior design, I'm also in charge of the greening of the Black Rice Wasteland. I'm really busy." "Yes, that's why I thought of finding someone to help you share the burden." Su-Yi nodded. "Since you're here today, I'll inform you in advance. Agnes, in view of your good work before, I, as the president of New Flyer, appoint you as the head of the Design Institute. You will be responsible for all the work of the Design Institute." "Ah!" Agnes was stunned. "You want me to be the dean? I'm afraid this won't work, right? Guild leader, I don't know anything. As long as you know how to design." Su-Yi smiled. "This time, I'll let you be in charge of recruiting people for the Design Institute. So whether you can find a designer who can help you will depend on your own effort." Agnes thought about it and didn't hesitate as she nodded in agreement. "All right, I'll work hard then." "That's right." Su-Yi thought about it and then asked, "That's right, I suddenly thought of a question that I forgot to ask. The Lampari Kingdom is much bigger than the Principality of Constantine, so the Principality of Constantine has over 3,000 elves in the Moon Shadow tribe. There shouldn't be a reason for the Lampari Kingdom to only have 1,000 elves like your Nightsong tribe, right? Based on common sense, there should be other elven tribes in the kingdom." Agnes thought about it and then gently shook her head. "I'm not too sure. This is because I rarely left the falling rainforest since I was young, and I've never heard the elders in the tribe mention this matter. All right, I'll ask Elder Elucia this question in the future." Su-Yi gave Agnes a few general requirements for recruiting people for the Design Institute before having Agnes leave the study. He went to a large map hanging on the wall of the study. This map was different from the one he had in the factory before. Other than a map of the Lampari Kingdom, there were also maps of the countries around the Lampari Kingdom. For example, the Principality of Constantine that Su-Yi had been to, the Sak Kingdom to the north that had always been at war with the Lampari Kingdom, and the Kingdom of Ruhr that Su-Yi planned to invest in. Su-Yi looked over the map and finally his eyes fell onto the upper right corner of the map, the Drake Duchy that shared a border with the Sak Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom. Based on the map, the Drake Duchy was a bit smaller than the Principality of Constantine. But the Principality of Constantine had a special terrain and was very remote, so compared to it, even if the Drake Duchy was smaller, its location was more important. For the Lampari Kingdom and the Sak Kingdom, this place that was less than a fifth the size of their kingdoms was very important. If either side could obtain the support of the Drake Duchy, they would have the absolute advantage in this confrontation. It wasn't impossible for them to directly destroy the other side. If we can win over the Drake Duchy, with this giant advantage, Seveni will be able to obtain more support than His Highness Eric, right? Su-Yi pointed at Banta City on the map, before drawing a line to the Drake Duchy in the upper right corner. With a rough estimate, He found that this distance was at least 700 kilometers. This distance wasn't considered much on Earth, but in the signs where transportation wasn't developed, it was a distance that was almost impossible to reach. If the new flyer wanted to take a step that far and spread their influence to the Drake Duchy that was 700 kilometers away, it really wasn't a realistic matter. After calculating in his heart, Su-yi pointed at a few more points on the map. These points represented cities that were in a straight line from Banta City to the Drake Duchy. If the new flyer could advance step by step, first developing in these cities and then moving forward step by step, it was very likely that they would reach the Drake Duchy. In the end, we haven't even established our foundation in the Lampari Kingdom, and we want to develop in other countries. This is a bit unrealistic. Su-yi gave a sigh before his eyes finally fell onto Anvilmar City on the map. How good would it be if Seveni took the throne now? With her supporting the magic machine industry, our development in the Lampari Kingdom would be much faster. It would also save me the headache of how to establish our foundation in other countries every day. It was a pity that Su-yi wasn't good at this, and it could be said that he couldn't do anything about it. Even if the new flyer was developing quite well, if they wanted to meddle in the politics of the Lampari Kingdom, it was far from being enough. The only thing I can do now is to let the new City Lord experience the taste of failure. Thinking of the pained look on Count Stark's face when he agreed to pay for the 3,000 agricultural magic machines, Su-yi couldn't help smiling. In the past 2 years, with the appearance of the new flyer, it had driven the development of Banta City. It had greatly increased Banta City's tax revenue, and after paying their share to the kingdom's treasury last year, they still had over 1 million gold coins left. This was already a considerable amount for a small city like Banta City, but under Su-yi's suggestion, Samo Count Stark had used all this money to improve Banta City's infrastructure and develop a long-term plan for Banta City. Actually calculating it, when Samo Count Stark was still the city lord, although Banta City's revenue was quite high, they spent even more money. When Samo Count Stark stepped down as the city lord, if the accounts were calculated clearly, the city lord manor didn't have a single copper coin left. Because of the various projects being started at the same time, they owed large amounts of money to many companies in the city. Take the new flyer for example. The city lord manor owed a debt of 170,000 gold coins. If one took the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce that took the most projects as an example, according to what Chairman Cruz told Su-yi, the city lord manor owed a debt of 780,000 gold coins. If all the debts of the city lord manor were added together, Su-yi estimated that it would be at least 1.5 million gold coins. If Banta City developed with the same momentum as before, even if this debt seemed large, it would be paid off in just a few years. But the one who took over as city lord was Count Stark, who had other goals. In order to show his political views and the stubborn conservative faction that he represented, as well as the will of the Stag family, in less than 2 months after he took over as city lord, he first forced the new flyer to leave. Then he implemented agricultural promotion policies, causing the various companies in Banta City to leave Banta City. The reason why Banta City had such a high tax income in the past 2 years was because most of it came from business taxes. Now that they had lost most of their tax income, how could the city lord manor have the money to pay for this large expenditure? Although the total price of 3,000 agricultural magic machines wasn't 200,000 gold coins, which wasn't much, not to mention 200,000 gold coins, the city lord manor couldn't even take out 20,000 gold coins. Because this was the city lord manor's decision, even if Count Stark wanted to target the new flyer, he definitely wouldn't ask the new flyer to pay for this because that was no different from robbing them. Su-yi was well aware of this situation, but when Count Stark asked the new flyer to provide 3,000 agricultural magic machines, he didn't even blink as he agreed. Actually, compared to this, he would rather Count Stark say that the new flyer would provide them for free. But it was a pity that Count Stark wasn't that stupid. Thinking of this, Sui couldn't help giving a cold laugh. Hey, I want to see how long this Count Stark can last. At this time, there were two knocks on the door. Chapter 349. The next morning, Sui brought Agnes and Princess Caroline, as well as Anjouan and the people from the Drake Duchy to the Falling Rain Valley. In the morning, Sui brought them around the new Flyers factories in the Falling Rain Valley, and as expected, he received praise from Anjouan and Princess Caroline. After lunch, Princess Caroline and Anjouan said that they wanted to look around. Sui naturally didn't reject, and called two people to accompany them. He found Kennard and held a small meeting. Sir Chairman, this is our company's financial report from last month. Please take a look. Kennard handed over a document. Sui took it and carefully looked it over. He found that compared to the first few months of the year, the new Flyers' profit last month had dropped a bit. It was clear that it was affected by moving out of Banta City. But the effect wasn't that big, and even if it dropped, the monthly profit was still over 500,000 gold coins. Very good, with this speed, we might be able to break 1,000,000 gold coins in 3 years. Sui gave a nod of praise. If we can reach this standard, our company can truly become a large company. Sir Chairman, you really are too modest, Kennard said with a smile. Even our Lampari Kingdom's strongest Focao Chamber of Commerce only has a profit of over 1,000,000 gold coins a month. Our new flyer has only been established for 2 years, and our monthly profit of over 500,000 gold coins is already a miracle. Lord Father always praises you in his letters to me, saying that you are the most talented merchant in the history of signs. Sui revealed a faint smile. This result isn't strictly because of my business ability, but rather because of my technical ability. Our company's profit has been increasing because our company's technology has always been in the lead, so we have to invest more in technology in the future to maintain this advantage. Yes, I understand. Kennard nodded. So I've already increased the budget for the Magic Machine Development Workshop and the Academy of Magic by 40%, reaching 500,000 and 400,000 respectively. Not enough. Sui shook his head. In my opinion, at least half of the Chamber of Commerce's net profits should be invested into technology research and development. Only then can we ensure that our technology is in the lead. Kennard said awkwardly, I'm afraid that won't do. President, first of all, we don't have that many researchers. Even if we give them a lot of gold coins, they won't be able to spend all of it on research. Moreover, we can't really take out half of the profits to research and develop technology, because although we make a lot of money, there are also many places where we need to spend money. Yes, I understand. That's why I came to you this time to plan our next investment plan. Sui got up and walked to the map hanging on the wall of Kennard's office. He pointed at the map and explained his idea to Kennard. First, we need to ensure the stability and development of the Falling Rain Valley, because this is our core base. Of course. Kennard nodded in agreement. Right now we're investing at least 100,000 gold coins in the Falling Rain Valley each month to maintain and develop it. Other than that, every factory in the Falling Rain Valley is making a profit, so I don't think there's much pressure on this. Let me take a look. Sui looked down at the last month's financial report in his hand. According to the report, of the 480,000 gold coins in the new Flyers' profit last month, the 2 steel mills accounted for close to half, providing a total of 250,000 gold coins in profit. As for the magic machine and household magic machine departments, because the market had stabilized and adding in the fact that they had moved last month, their output had decreased, causing their profit to decrease a bit. They only provided a profit of 170,000 gold coins. As for the remaining 60,000 gold coins in profit, it was provided by the tire factory and the bicycle factory. These 2 factories were currently experiencing the fastest growth in profits, especially the bicycle factory. Their profits had shown explosive growth for several consecutive months. Once the bicycle was released, it was immediately welcomed by everyone in Banda City and the surrounding cities. Because for normal people, private horse carriages were too expensive and they couldn't accept it at all. There were also restrictions on riding horse carriages, so it wasn't convenient. So the bicycle wasn't slower than the horse carriage, but it was more convenient and flexible, so it naturally became the most popular choice for most people. Not to mention the ordinary people who needed bicycles instead of walking. Even the rich aristocrats or businessmen would buy one or even several bicycles for themselves to go for a ride in their spare time. Because of the appearance of the bicycle, the Fersen Carriage Company's business had been affected. Chairman Pompey had complained to Sui several times about this. All right, the investment in the Falling Rain Valley can't be reduced. Then, other than the investment of 100,000 gold coins, what we need to invest the most in next should be the Black Rice Wasteland, right? Sui looked at the financial report in his hand and asked this. Yes. The Black Rice Wasteland is still in the early stages of investment, so right now we can only see the investment and no returns. This is equal to around 150,000 gold coins being invested each month. Kennard said, but the initial investment is nearing its end. I believe that not long after, the Black Rice Wastelands mine and the non-ferrous metal smelting factory will give our company rich returns. Sui laughed. Very good, Kennard is the right person to be the CEO. If it's Heinz, he'll definitely be worried about this huge investment every month without seeing any returns. Kennard revealed a faint smile. The vice chairman is experienced, there are many things I can't compare to. Kid, you really know how to talk. Sui shook his head with a smile. But it's a pity that although the returns on the Black Rice Wasteland are rich, they can't be turned into gold coins. This is because whether it is the mine or the non-ferrous metal smelting factory, our company has to digest them internally and can't sell them. Kennard hesitated for a bit before asking Sui, Sir Chairman, since you've always emphasized that resources must be controlled by yourself, then why do you keep buying iron ore from the Foucault Chamber of Commerce? According to my previous statistics, our company consumes 280,000 tons of iron ore every month. Just this alone costs over 2.5 million gold coins. This is a very high burden for us. Our company clearly already has an iron ore mine, so why don't we mine it ourselves to reduce the cost? It's very simple. Because the iron ore is cheap right now and the iron ore in our hands is limited. If we don't buy from the Foucault Chamber of Commerce while it's cheap, could it be that we're waiting for the iron ore price to soar before buying? Sui replied with a smile. As for the iron ore, we'll mine it in the future, but that will have to wait for the iron ore price to rise. According to my estimates, it'll take at least 5 years. Sir Chairman, are you that certain? Kennard asked suspiciously. Of course. I firmly believe that the magic machines will quickly spread throughout the Lampari Kingdom and the signs. At that time, the iron ore needed to produce the magic machines will become a resource that everyone will crazily fight over. It would be strange if the price didn't rise. Sui said with certainty. Kennard had been under Sui for half a year, so he knew that Sui wasn't someone who spoke without thinking. Since Sui was so certain, then he must have his reasons. Since it's like this, then we should take advantage of this opportunity to control a few more iron ore mines. Or rather, the more the better, Kennard said in a deep voice, but most of the iron ore mines in the Lampari Kingdom are controlled by the Foucault Chamber of Commerce. It'll be very hard to steal from them. That's why our target is somewhere else. Sui pointed at the Black Rice Wasteland on the map, then pointed at the Principality of Constantine before finally landing on the Drake Duchy. Since the Black Rice Wasteland has such rich non-ferrous metal veins, then I'm certain that there should be rich iron ores as well. Therefore, we need to invest more into the Black Rice Wasteland. As for the Principality of Constantine, We'll leave those 3 iron ore mines there for now, because I need to wait for a person's response. What I want to discuss with you now is the Drake Duchy's problem. Sir Chairman, based on your words, the 2 guests from the Drake Duchy have already reached an agreement with you. Kennard asked. Pretty much. But if we want to get the resources we need from the Drake Duchy, it will take some effort. Sui said with a nod. Her Highness Princess Caroline gave a very good suggestion, and I think it's very feasible. Look, this is Seoul City, where Count Samo is currently the city lord. Our initial goal should be to obtain Count Samo's support and develop the magic machine industry in Seoul City, turning Seoul City into another Banta city. Kennard looked at Seoul City's location on the map and slightly knit his brows. Sir Chairman, this Seoul City's location. I'm afraid it's not that good. Although it's close to the Drake Duchy, it's even closer to the Sac Kingdom. If the Sac Kingdom has any ideas about this place, it might be dangerous. That's simple, we just have to think of a way to make the Sac Kingdom have no ideas about it. Sui said with a faint smile. Chapter 350. Chairman Su, is it hard to lay down these street lamps? Princess Caroline pointed at the street lamps on both sides of the falling rain valley as she asked Sui this question. It isn't considered difficult from my perspective. Sui replied with a smile. This means that it's very difficult from my perspective? Sui revealed a smile. That's right. Although the street lamp technology isn't complicated, only our new flyer has this technology, so of course it's very difficult for others. I've heard that your new flyer has sold several important pieces of technology before, so it can be seen that Chairman Su isn't someone who has everything in his hands. Then I want to ask, if we want to buy the street lamp technology, what kind of conditions do we need to pay? Princess Caroline asked. Seeing Princess Caroline's seductive appearance, Sui shook his head with a faint smile. I'm very sorry, but right now we aren't planning on selling this technology because this technology contains the most advanced magic array technology that our company is currently researching, so it isn't convenient to reveal it. Princess Caroline wasn't disappointed as she kept asking, then what about other technologies that can be revealed? For example, the agricultural magic machine technology. I don't think it's that important, right? It's a pity that although the agricultural magic machines technology isn't something that can't be revealed, to make agricultural magic machines, the most important thing isn't the related technology, but rather the experienced workers who can operate them. I think, other than our new flyer, there aren't any other places that have this kind of skilled workers. It's like this. Princess Caroline thought about what she had seen in the falling rain valley over the past few days, and found that Sui wasn't lying on purpose. Those dwarven workers and the few human workers who made the magic machines all had very good experience. If anyone were to find them, they definitely wouldn't be able to reach their standard of operation. After confirming the situation, Princess Caroline rolled her eyes and no longer mentioned this issue. Instead, she continued to wander around the falling rain valley with Sui. After this tour that was more like a stroll, Princess Caroline stopped and said to Sui with a sigh, Chairman Su, although it is a pity, I have to say that our tour of the falling rain valley is over. I'm afraid I have to return to the Drake Duchy. Sui nodded. I'm very sorry. I had hoped that Your Highness could stay for a few more days and get to know our new flyer better. Princess Caroline revealed a charming smile. Actually, compared to understanding new flyer, I'm more interested in understanding you. Chairman Su. You're the most special man I've ever met, and you've helped me realize my childhood dream. If you weren't married, I would have definitely made up my mind to snatch you away. Of course, even now, as long as you're willing, I welcome you to do something with me at any time. Sui shook his head with a bitter smile. Your Highness, don't tease me anymore. We've already reached a preliminary agreement and there will be many chances to meet in the future. I'm very worried that if you continue like this, I won't be able to control myself one day and will do something that will let down my wife. Princess Caroline immediately gave a laugh that sounded like a silver bell. Ha, ha, Chairman Sue, you really are too cute. I've already told you many times, this isn't that big of a matter. Even if it's your wife, she definitely won't mind. But I do mind, Sue said with a serious look. All right, I understand. Chairman Sue, you are a proper man, I promise I won't tease you anymore, how about it? Princess Caroline raised a brow at Sue. He could tell with a single glance that she was just casually making up this guarantee. Seeing her expression, Sue couldn't help feeling a headache coming on. If it was anyone else, he wouldn't have any contact with them in the future, but if nothing unexpected happened, the Drake Duchy would be a very important partner of the new flyer. Sue couldn't just avoid meeting her in the future. Seeing the expression on Sue's face, Princess Caroline gave another long laugh before waving her hand at Sue. All right, Chairman Sue, Anjuin has already discussed those trivial matters with you. Let's end our private matters here. We'll continue when we meet in Seoul City next time. After saying this, she gave Sue a teasing smile before taking 2 steps forward and softly saying, Next time, I'll make the bed ahead of time and wait for Chairman Sue to come. After saying this, Princess Caroline didn't wait for Sue to say anything. With a soft turn, she turned around and entered the horse carriage that had already been prepared. After a while, Princess Caroline opened the window of the carriage and blew a kiss at Sue before leaving the falling rain valley with the carriage. Seeing Princess Caroline's figure gradually disappear, Sue bitterly smiled and shook his head. Although Princess Caroline always had a wanton and unrestrained appearance in front of him, because of her boldness and straightforwardness, Sue couldn't really hate her. But when he thought about how he would be teased every time he saw her, Sue couldn't help feeling a deep sense of helplessness. In the end, when a woman became a rogue, she was even more terrifying than a man being a rogue. Not to mention that she was such a beautiful and charming female rogue, different from Sue's helpless sigh, when the horse carriage left the falling rain valley and flew onto the falling rain road to Banta City. Princess Caroline in the horse carriage put down the curtains and the smile on her face disappeared without a trace. In the blink of an eye, she became incomparably dignified, and there was even a trace of dignity that couldn't be ignored. It was like in the blink of an eye, she had turned from a female rogue who kept teasing Sue into a real princess. Seeing the change in Princess Caroline's expression, Anjuin sitting in front of her gave a sigh before sincerely saying, Your Highness, it really has been hard on you these past few days. Princess Caroline shook her head. No, I didn't find it hard. This Sue is a true gentleman, so he didn't make it hard for me at all over the past few days. But we didn't achieve our goal, right? If we go back like this, it won't be easy to explain to the Sac Kingdom, Anjuin said with a worried look. Princess Caroline looked at Anjuin and gave a soft snort. Why do we need to explain to them? Actually, I was already against Lord Father making this deal with those fellows from the Sac Kingdom. Even if we helped them obtain the information they needed from Sue, how would that help us? Our Drake Duchy has always maintained a balance between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom, trying not to side with either side. Now that Lord Father has made this choice, I don't agree with it. Anjuin knit his brows. The Duke also has no other choice. Although our Drake Duchy could survive like this before, once the Lampari Kingdom or the Sac Kingdom made their decision, it would be hard for us to protect ourselves. So I've never approved of this way of survival. Compared to giving your fate to others, it's better to control it in your own hands. Princess Caroline said. It's just too hard to achieve this. Anjuin said with a sigh, Your Highness, we are only a small duchy. We don't have the strength to compete with 2 kingdoms that are much stronger than us. I also felt that I couldn't do it before, but after being forced to come here to see Sue, I've found a trace of possibility. A look of excitement flashed in Princess Caroline's eyes. Princess Caroline's eyes lit up with excitement. Anjuin, you should know that the Sac Kingdom suffered a terrible loss in the battle for the Muerto Mountains with the Lampari Kingdom last month, right? Because the Lampari Kingdom's northern army suddenly became very strong, the Sac Kingdom's hungry wolf regiment couldn't resist them at all. That was why they lost the Muerto Mountains. Anjuin said with a nod. It is because of this that the Sac Kingdom secretly reached an agreement with the Duke, giving us benefits to have your Highness investigate this matter. After saying this, Anjuin paused before giving a sigh. Actually, I also hope that the Duke doesn't make this decision. Your Highness isn't this kind of person to begin with, but you have to follow the orders of the Sac Kingdom's staff officers and act this. Undignified, it really is hard on you. This is nothing. Princess Caroline shook her head. If it really benefits our Drake Duchy, my body doesn't count for anything. But I have to say, those fellows from the Sac Kingdom have underestimated this Su-Yi too much. He isn't someone who can be captured with simple beauty. Other than that, after being in contact with him over the past few days, I've found something very strange. What's strange? I feel that Su-Yi doesn't seem to care about the Lampari Kingdom that much. He has told me more than once that his greatest wish is to spread the magic machines produced by the new flyer across the continent, letting all the people of the continent live a comfortable life. He's just bragging in front of you, isn't he? Anjuin curled his lips in disdain. Anjuin disdainfully said with a disdainful look, "These words aren't worth mentioning, but it's good to trick little girls. Your Highness, how could you be fooled? Why would he lie to me?" Princess Caroline asked back. "Don't forget, I clearly wanted to seduce him. He didn't need to use sweet words to deceive me because as long as he was willing, I could have a relationship with him at any time. Moreover, I could feel his sincerity from his words, so I feel that whether it is us or those fellows from the Sac Kingdom, we have all misjudged him." Anjuin looked at Princess Caroline in surprise. "Your Highness, you wouldn't have really fallen in love with him, right?" Princess Caroline revealed a sweet smile. "To be honest, I might have fallen in love with him a bit. But like he said to me, my attraction to him can't compare to the 2 iron mines and his attraction to me can't compare to my desire to make our Drake Duchy stronger." "But you just said, right, I found the possibility of making our Drake Duchy stronger from him." Princess Caroline seriously said, "So this time, I want to truly cooperate with him." Chapter 351. After entering September, it was getting closer and closer to this year's fall harvest. The people of Banta City were surprised to find that although the agricultural promotion policies of the City Lord Manor didn't change on the surface, there was a large change in the implementation process. They were no longer suppressing all business in the city like before, rather they were secretly announcing a series of normal policies that promoted the development of Banta City's businesses. For example, just a week ago, the City Lord announced a new policy. He announced that he would continue the renovation plan of Banta City. According to the plan Satsuma Count had when he was the City Lord, he would completely renovate Banta City and turn it into a new beautiful city. The people of Banta City were clear that the Frestek Chamber of Commerce was the main contractor of Banta City's municipal renovation project. Since Count Stagg took over as Banta City's City Lord, it was clear that he was targeting the Frestek Chamber of Commerce, so he gave the order for this municipal renovation project. Now that Count Stark had suddenly changed his mind and continued with this plan, it seemed to everyone that this was the City Lord Manor. This was simply slapping his own face. However, after seeing the measures of the City Lord Manor, everyone found that this Count Stark still cared about his face very much. Because according to the rules of the City Lord Manor, although the renovation plan would continue, it wouldn't be mainly carried out by the new flyer like before, rather it would be led by the City Lord Manor. The new flyer was just one of the companies that the City Lord Manor worked with in this renovation project. In other words, Count Stark wasn't planning on giving the new flyer special treatment like Satsuma Count before. Rather he was acting aloof, treating the new flyer as a normal company that could receive orders from the City Lord Manor. As for the new flyer's reaction, the new flyer didn't react at all. As for the policies of the City Lord Manor and the policies that were clearly loosening the restrictions on business in Banta City, the new flyer didn't react at all. There were many companies in Banta City that became active again because of Count Stark's loosening, but the new flyer didn't have any intention of returning to Banta City to develop. Rather, in the middle of September, they announced several unrelated important news in the Banta Times. The first was that the new flyer was planning to work with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, the Renekton Chamber of Commerce, and the Armani Chamber of Commerce to invest in the Black Rice Wasteland. The first phase of the project was to build a small production base on the Black Rice Wasteland. It would include a household magic machine factory, a mining magic machine factory, and a large textile factory for the Armani Chamber of Commerce. The second was something that the new flyer had been planning for half a year. The 3 mines and a canned fruit processing factory in the Principality of Constantine had entered the investment phase and would start construction by the end of the year. The third was an agreement between the new flyer and the Kingdom of Ruhr. They would build a factory to produce agricultural magic machines in Manura City to the north of the Kingdom of Ruhr near the Lampari Kingdom's border, which would satisfy the large demand for agricultural magic machines in the Kingdom of Ruhr. The fourth was the most shocking one. It was that the new flyer had announced a 5-year plan in the Banta Times. According to this plan, in the next 5 years, the new flyer would first build production bases in Karma City, Sultan City, Canberra City, and Norton City in the first 2 years. This would allow the new flyer to expand the range of their magic machines. Then in the next 3 years, the new flyer would use this experience to build factories in various parts of the Lampari Kingdom, allowing the magic machines to cover the entire Lampari Kingdom. It had to be said, this 5-year plan was filled with ambition. It was completely different from the stable style of the new flyer before, taking one step at a time. Not to mention that with the 3 pieces of news from before, it proved that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had suddenly changed their style. They were leaving Banta City and investing in various places, as if in the blink of an eye, they were expanding in all directions. Faced with this situation, everyone had a trace of doubt in their hearts. The new flyer had only been established for 2 years and didn't have a deep background. Although they were developing quickly and their strength wasn't bad, if they wanted to expand like this, wasn't it too impatient? No, I don't think we're in a rush. Kennard looked at the reporters under the stage with a faint smile and slowly shook his head. He had hosted the new flyer's press conferences many times, so when he faced these reporters, he wasn't as nervous as the first time. On the contrary, our company has deeply researched all the plans and only released them after ensuring that they were feasible. This 5-year plan is the result of our research. But CEO Kennard, your new flyer's previous investments were just small ones. Now that you want to invest in various places, even investing in the Black Rice Wasteland, the Principality of Constantine, and the Kingdom of Ruhr, I'm very doubtful if you can support this large consumption. If you're talking about funding, then I have to tell you that there isn't a problem. Kennard's smile was filled with confidence. Our new flyer's foundation isn't as deep as those old companies, but our company's profits have always been good, so there definitely won't be a problem in terms of funding. The reporters under the stage couldn't help secretly nodding. People could doubt the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's various problems, but no one doubted the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's finances. This was because since the new flyer was established, each product they released would create a wave of sales, which brought a large amount of income to the new flyer. Moreover, because the new flyer kept innovating in terms of technology, each product of the new flyer kept being updated. Even if it was the magic fan that had been around for 2 years, the new flyer kept improving it, so the magic machines they released before still had quite a bit of sales. For example, in the middle of summer this year, the new flyer released 3 different magic fans at once. One was a small magic fan that could be placed on a table like the previous magic fan. There weren't many changes, but the material and appearance had been improved, making the new magic fan lighter and more beautiful. The second was a magic fan with a longer base that could be placed on the ground and moved around at will. The advantage of this magic fan was that because it had a base to support it, the angle could be adjusted, so there was more freedom. The third was a ceiling magic fan that hung from the ceiling. Compared to the previous 2 magic fans, the ceiling magic fan was directly hanging from the ceiling, so there was no freedom at all. But compared to the previous 2 magic fans, the ceiling magic fan was much more powerful, so naturally the wind it blew out was much stronger. If there was a ceiling magic fan hanging from the ceiling of the living room, once it was turned on, the entire living room would be blown by the wind. In this summer, the sales of the first magic fan were the same as last year, only increasing by a bit. However, the sales of the last 2 magic fans exploded. According to the information the Banta Times obtained from the new flyer, in the 3 months of summer, the new flyer's floor magic fan had sold 160,000 units and the ceiling magic fan had sold over 80,000 units. Combining the floor magic fan's price of 6 gold coins and the ceiling magic fan's price of 8 gold coins, just from these 2 magic fans, the new flyer had earned a terrifying 1.5 million gold coins in sales. Even if the new flyer didn't reveal their true profits to the Banta Times, according to their estimates, the new flyer had earned a large profit of at least 500,000 gold coins from these 2 magic fans. And this was just the magic fan. In this summer, the Xinfei brand magic air conditioners and magic refrigerators produced by the new flyer also sold well. Adding in the stable sales of the other household magic machines, the lowest profit for the new flyer in terms of household magic machines was over 1 million gold coins. As for the production magic machines that were as important as the household magic machines, although the new flyer didn't give any specific data, there were many magic machine companies that appeared in the other cities of the Lampari Kingdom, and the production magic machines they used were all provided by the new flyer. Just based on this, it could be seen that the sales volume of the new flyer in terms of production magic machines wasn't inferior to the household magic machines. Combining these 2 statistics, one could easily come to a conclusion. It was that the new flyer didn't have any financial problems. No, I'm not doubting the funds, rather I'm doubting the manpower. The reporter who asked this question kept asking, Mr. Kennard, when I interviewed Chairman Su before, I asked him several times why the new flyer's magic machines were so popular, but the new flyer never thought of expanding to other places to promote their magic machines. He said that the time wasn't right and that they lacked manpower. But now that your new flyer has suddenly announced that you're investing in all these places, could it be that the manpower problem has been solved? It's a pity that the manpower problem is still a very big problem and it hasn't been solved yet. Kennard gave a sigh as he said in a regretful voice, Then isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to make such a rash plan? Kennard revealed a faint smile. Sir Chairman said that there will definitely be problems, but rather than waiting for the problem to be solved, it's better to move forward and solve the problem. If we don't take the initiative to seize the opportunity, it won't jump into our hands. Our new flyer made this 5-year plan to give ourselves pressure and urge us to work hard to develop. The reporters under the stage couldn't help secretly nodding. Chairman Su really is a bold chairman, I deeply admire him. That reporter couldn't help praising him with a nod. Many thanks for your praise, I think that Sir Chairman will be very happy when he learns of this. Kennard said with a smile. All right, other than announcing the 5-year plan, I also want to announce something else. In a month, our new flyer will be holding the Xinfei Road Bicycle Race outside Banta City. I hope that people who are interested in this will participate. All the reporters under the stage were stunned. Road bicycle race? What kind of thing was this? Chapter 352 In the previous press conference, Kennard as the CEO of the New Flyer had replaced Sue E to say some impassioned words, indicating that the New Flyer would enter a period of rapid expansion. However, in the eyes of everyone, Sue E as the chairman in this month was a bit not doing his job. If it was said that when he published 3 books on magic machines through the publishing house of the Banta Times, it was considered related to his profession, then when he announced that he was opening a Frestech Academy, it really was a bit strange to people. Even if Sue E had said a long time ago that he would be opening a comprehensive college, when everyone learned about the courses of this college, they were still confused. It was fine if it was just basic magic classes, but why would there be language, math, physics, chemistry, astronomy, geography, history, and all kinds of other random classes? To many people, the only useful things were astronomy and geography. As for language and math, teaching how to read and do simple math, shouldn't children learn it as they grow up? Sue E gave a response to this in the Banta Times. He said that the language classes taught in the New Flight College weren't anything special, but the math, physics, chemistry, and other classes were all a foundation for understanding magic machines. They were all things that could greatly promote the development of the magic machine industry in the future. According to this explanation, this academy could be considered to be somewhat related to his job. However, for the following matter, people couldn't connect it to Sue Yi's job no matter what. After a month of preparation, the Xinfei bicycle race was finally held on a clear autumn day in October. After being bombarded by the New Flyer's strong advertising campaign in the various newspapers and all over Banta City for a month, not only the people of Banta City, even the people of the surrounding cities already knew about the existence of this bicycle race. From the advertisements, they knew that this bicycle race was sponsored by the New Flyer. As for the content of the race, it was very simple. It was to see who could ride faster. According to the rules of the race, the participants had to start in Banta City and finish in the Falling Rain Valley, which was a total of 60 kilometers. Because this was the first race, the New Flyer was still in its initial stages, so they didn't prepare any rich prizes. However, the first-place participant would receive a full set of Xinfei brand household magic machines from the New Flyer. Calculating it all, this set of household magic machines was worth over 200 gold coins, which wasn't considered little. Other than first place, the next 10 participants that passed the finish line would receive second-place prizes. They would receive a set of Xinfei brand household magic machines worth close to 100 gold coins. After that, the next 50 participants that passed the finish line would receive third-place prizes. They would receive a Xinfei brand variable temperature magic air conditioner worth 30 gold coins. With such a tempting prize, it attracted many people to participate. There were even many people who didn't buy bicycles before who rushed out to buy one in a month to practice, planning on getting the prize through practice. On the day of the race, according to the statistics, there were a terrifying 10,000 people who signed up. Because the number of participants exceeded their expectations, the New Flyer was forced to announce that the 10,000 people would be split into 5 batches. Then the rankings would be determined based on the starting time and the finishing time. Because of this, the race that was supposed to be finished in a single morning was extended to an entire day. But the 10,000 people participating didn't complain at all. After all, to most people, participating in this kind of bicycle race was a very novel experience. As for the prize, it was just a congratulatory gift. It was good if they could get it, but it wasn't a problem if they couldn't get it. Moreover, the New Flyer gave everyone a pleasant surprise. Before the race officially began, Sue E. Steele and great magician Camilla, who they hadn't seen in a long time, were all riding bicycles at the starting point. They were actually planning on setting off at the same time as the first batch of participants. Seeing the excited gazes of the surrounding people, Sue E. teased Steele beside him. "Hey, tell me, which one of the 3 of us are these fellows this excited?" Steele rolled her eyes at him. it's not you." She let go of the handlebars after saying this and raised her hands to signal the surrounding people. The crowd instantly broke out in cheers before she revealed a proud smile to Sue. "How about it?" Sue couldn't help smiling. He thought that Steele would always reveal a naughty appearance in front of him, even after they got married. "Come, let's see." Seeing Steele's actions, Sue's childish heart was aroused. He copied Steele's actions and waved his hands at the surrounding people in a pose that he thought was very handsome. The crowd immediately burst out in cheers, but it was clear that the voices of the women completely covered the voices of the men. Steele gave a soft snort. "Chairman Sue, I never thought that you would be so popular with girls." Sue laughed. "You're flattering me." The two looked at each other and laughed at the same time. Then they looked at Great Magician Camilla on the side. Great Magician Camilla glared at the two of them. "What are you looking at? Do you think that I'll be like you, fighting like a child?" The two laughed and looked at each other. They suddenly got out of the car at the same time and came to Great Magician Camilla's left and right. They each grabbed one of his arms and raised him up at the same time. Seeing the three of them like this, the surrounding crowd burst out in a deafening cheer. It was clearly much louder than the previous two cheers, and there were countless excited shouts. "Look, grandfather, you have a very high position in the hearts of the people of Banta City, so you should come out more in the future. Let everyone see you and they'll be more assured." Sue said with a smile. "That's right, grandfather, you should come out more when you have nothing to do. How boring it is to stay in the lab all day." Steele also said. Great Magician Camilla looked at the two of them and revealed a happy smile. He shook his head and said, "All right, I know that you're worried about my body, but there's nothing to worry about. Let me tell you, I've already touched the threshold. Perhaps it won't be long before I become a 5th grade Great Magician. I think that as long as I work harder to become an Archmagus, I can live for a few more years." Sue and Steele were surprised at the same time. "Wah! Grandfather, you're actually about to become a 5th grade magician? You're actually this fast?" Steele said with a look of pleasant surprise. Great Magician Camilla revealed a faint smile. "I don't know why either, but after I started studying magic machines, I found that my magic level has increased much faster than before." After saying this, he looked at Sue. "Hey kid, even an old man like me can break through, so you can't be lazy. If you aren't even a great magician when I become an Archmagus, that would be too unreasonable." Sue nodded with a bitter smile. "I will work hard." Steele held Sue's hand with a smile. "Grandfather, be assured, I will definitely urge him to become a great magician. When we have 2 great magicians in our family, Mom and Dad will definitely be happy to death." Great Magician Camilla laughed before waving his hand and saying, "All right, we'll talk about these things later. Let's just properly participate in the bicycle race today. Speaking of this, that kid Sue really has a lot of random ideas. He actually came up with this kind of race to promote bicycles. This isn't just for advertising, this kind of race is also good for people's health, isn't it?" Sue complained. I agree with this point. So you two aren't allowed to care about me today. I want to finish the 60 kilometers myself." Great Magician Camilla waved his hand in a heroic manner, not giving Sue and Steele a chance to object at all. The two of them could only nod in agreement. It was a good thing that although Great Magician Camilla was close to 70 years old, because of the special physique of a great magician, his body wasn't weak. As long as he didn't have any thoughts of competing, it wasn't hard for him to slowly finish the 60 kilometers. The three of them chatted for a while. The atmosphere of the race had already reached a climax with the host that new flyer had specially invited. When it was time for the race, the host loudly announced the start of the race. With an explosive sound, Sue Steele and Great Magician Camilla charged out of the starting point. The first batch of 2,000 racers also charged out behind them. Seeing Great Magician Camilla take the lead, Sue and Steele looked at each other with smiles and slowed down at the same time. the other racers behind them all passed the two of them. From time to time, there would be people who would greet the two of them before whistling off. After a while, the two of them were at the back of the group. There were only racers left in the front, back, left, and right who were clearly just participating like them. In this kind of cool autumn weather, bathing in the warm autumn sun, riding on the road in the suburbs was actually a very pleasant experience. The two of them didn't have any thoughts of speeding up at all. They slowly rode while chatting with smiles, looking very relaxed. Su Yi's eyes looked over the golden mature wheat on the side of the road, and he suddenly said with a laugh, "Speaking of this, the reason why this bicycle race can be held is because of this wheat. Because Count Stark had to compromise and agree to your conditions in order to smoothly harvest them?" Steele's lips curled as she said with a faint smile. "That's right, our beloved Sir City Lord is willing to agree to any conditions in order to have a good performance in this autumn harvest. Not to mention agreeing to hold a bicycle race that won't affect much. Even if I asked him to reopen the Sandton industrial area, he would have to accept it. But I feel that there aren't many benefits to him doing this." Steele doubtfully pointed at the wheat fields on the side of the road. During last year's autumn harvest, Banta City's wheat fields were also filled with crops like now. Count Satsuma said that Banta City's grain yield didn't have much room to increase. Even if Count Stark thinks of a way, I feel that it's impossible to increase the grain yield by that much this autumn harvest, right? Su Yi laughed. "Relax, our beloved Sir City Lord isn't a fool, he definitely has a way." "Is that so?" Steele looked at Su Yi before looking at the wheat fields on the side of the road with a look of doubt and confusion. Chapter 353. After the fall harvest, Banta City's grain yield had shocked everyone because it had reached a terrifying 760,000 tons. Compared to the 570,000 tons from last year's fall harvest, it had actually increased by 190,000 tons. Not to mention Banta City's previous harvest, it wasn't even inferior to the Lampari Kingdom's cities that were much bigger than Banta City. Because of this grain yield, Banta City had been in the limelight in the Lampari Kingdom. Then with the 2 years of growth from last year and last year, Banta City had become the only city that the king and the Lampari Kingdom's agriculture department had praised at the same time. For the Lampari Kingdom that was in chaos because of the famine 10 years ago, grain was the most important thing and no one dared to ignore it. Count Stark as Banta City's city lord could increase Banta City's grain yield from a shocking 570,000 tons to 760,000 tons, which immediately won everyone's praise. Because Count Stark's agricultural promotion policies had caused Banta City's economic development to stagnate, affecting Banta City's prosperity, the people who had complained about Count Stark immediately closed their mouths after learning of this grain yield. So Count Stark's position as city lord that seemed precarious before the fall harvest was instantly stabilized after the fall harvest. The evaluation of the Lampari Kingdom's high-level members had soared, as if he had instantly surpassed all the city lords of the other cities in the Lampari Kingdom. However, Count Stark, who had achieved this result, didn't have a high evaluation from the people of Banta City. When they discussed him in private, there were even quite a few people who expressed their disdain for him. When Satsuma Count was in charge of the fall harvest last year, he had already calculated all the farmland in Banta City. Moreover, he had us help him and determined that even if Banta City planted wheat all over and harvested all of it, it wouldn't surpass 700,000 tons. In the end, this Count Stark took in 760,000 tons of wheat at once. If you say that he didn't cheat, I wouldn't believe it. Old man Sarkozy said with a look of disdain. There's no need to guess, okay? Yasali, who came from Mexilin village like old man Sarkozy, rolled his eyes and said, My wife has a relative in Yodel village, and he told my wife that before the fall harvest, the city lord Manor sent a group of people to recruit the villagers of Yodel village. They said that they wanted them to help open the canal and promised that the fall harvest would be taken over by the City Lord Manor, so they didn't need to worry. When the autumn harvest ended, he came back to take a look. My goodness, guess how much wheat Yodel Village harvested? How much? Everyone, including Old Man Sarkozy, asked in a curious voice. A full 80,000 tons. Jashari gestured and replied loudly. How is this possible? Are you talking nonsense? That's right. How big is Yodel Village? How can it harvest 80,000 tons of wheat? Cambia Village has only collected 60,000 tons. Hearing this answer, everyone had strong doubts about this 80,000-ton number. Everyone here was a native of Banta City, and they had worked in the fields for several decades, so they were very clear on the grain yield of each village in Banta City. Before this, Yodel Village was in a remote location, had bad terrain, and didn't have much farmland. At most, they could only harvest around 30,000 tons of wheat, and that was when they had a large harvest. But this year it was 80,000 tons, so anyone could tell that it was impossible. Hey, you don't know this, right? Let me tell you, after my wife's relative went back to his original farm, he found that the number of wheat stalks left after the harvest had doubled. It looked as if they had really planted a lot of grain in that farm. Moreover, didn't you read the Banta Times? The City Lord Manor announced that for this fall harvest, they are promoting a new wheat seed from the Drake Duchy in Banta City. The yield is much higher than what we used before, so there is much more wheat in the end. Yasali said with a laugh. What nonsense! Old Man Sarkozy immediately reprimanded. If there was such a good seed, why would the Drake Duchy give it to Count Stark? They wouldn't have kept it for themselves. Yasali gave a shrug. Who knows? Perhaps our Lord City Lord has given the Drake Duchy some special benefits that they are willing to take out such a good seed. Bullshit! Old Man Sarkozy angrily said. Old Man Sarkozy angrily said, didn't that princess and minister of the Drake Duchy come over a while ago? They were clearly in the falling rain valley all day, chatting with Chairman Sue. My son personally saw this. How could they cooperate with Count Stark? Who knows? The matters between these important people, how could commoners like us know? Yasali said in an uncaring voice. Then again, it is a good thing that Banta City's grain yield is higher. We'll have face when we talk about it in the future. Are you an idiot? Old Man Sarkozy scolded him without any politeness. You still don't understand what this means? Now that Banta City's grain yield is higher, this Count Stark is sitting even more firmly in the City Lord position. If he continues with his policy of suppressing commerce and promoting agriculture, then we will all lose our jobs. Could it be that you want to work yourself to death in the fields like before? Hearing Old Man Sarkozy's scolding, Yasali and the surrounding people were stunned. After thinking about it, they found that Old Man Sarkozy's words were very reasonable. The reason why they didn't like this new Lord City Lord before was because he had been promoting agricultural promotion policies as soon as he came. It put all the companies in Banta City in danger and made many people lose their comfortable and high-paying job. Now that Count Stark had stabilized his position as the City Lord because of the strange grain yield in Banta City during the fall harvest, the large companies of Banta City would have it even harder. Perhaps they wouldn't be able to keep their jobs at the Cantona Chamber of Commerce because of this. At this time, Cantona, who everyone had been waiting for, came in. When they saw him, everyone asked the questions they were worried about. Cantona waved his hand with a smile. Everyone be assured, although our Cantona Chamber of Commerce is a company in name, what we do is farming, and it doesn't conflict with the Lord City Lord's policies. Last time the Lord City Lord met me and encouraged our company to work hard. We had to help the farmers of Banta City plan their fields like before. Really? Could it be that he doesn't know about your relationship with Chairman Sue? Yasali asked. So what if he knows? For important people like them, the most important thing is to give them what they need. Cantona said with a faint smile. Old man Sarkozy knit his brows to look at Cantona. I say, Cantona, it can't be that this fellow gave you a bit of praise and you want to flatter him, right? Cantona laughed. Old man Sarkozy, you're looking down on me too much. Although the Lord City Lord praised our company, it didn't bring any benefits to our company at all. Rather, he said that the canned fruit factory's influence was too bad, making Koror Village only plant fruits and not wheat. If Koror Village also planted wheat, Banta City's grain yield could break 800,000 tons. Hearing this, everyone stood up in unison. Based on this, he's planning on closing the canned fruit factory? Cantona gave a helpless sigh and said, he doesn't dare force New Flyer to close the canned fruit factory, but he wants our company to help the villagers of Koror Village get rid of all the fruit trees after the fall harvest and plant all the grain in their fields. He dares. A few villagers from Koror Village immediately jumped up and roared angrily, we worked so hard to plant these fruit trees, and they've only been bearing fruit for 2 years. What right does he have to uproot them just like that? That's right, it was hard enough to get New Flyer's canned fruit factory, we can buy all the fruit. I'm planning on planting some more fruit trees tomorrow. Damn, I earned 300 gold coins from these 2 mu of fruit trees, how much can I earn from planting wheat? 30 gold coins? If he uproots all the fruit trees, will he give me the money? That's not all. My wife and daughter are both working in the canned fruit factory. Every month, their salary is close to 30 gold coins. If all the fruit trees here are uprooted, how can the canned fruit factory continue operating? Wouldn't my wife and daughter lose their jobs? Why doesn't this idiot city lord just die? Our family can earn several dozen gold coins a month from this, and seeing that the canned fruit is selling so well, we can earn even more in the future, but he's telling us not to do it. He simply doesn't want us to have a good life. Damn, if father can't keep living, I'll go all out with that damn city lord. Previously, when they were talking about the total grain output of this autumn harvest, everyone was chatting with doubt and ridicule. But now, when they suddenly heard about this matter that was related to their own interests, everyone became excited in an instant. Of course, the income of the villagers of Koror Village had increased by leaps and bounds due to the income from the canned fruit factory and the orchards. But now, the mayor's order was going to make them go back to the poor life of renting land. No one would be able to take it. The group of people loudly cursed, but they couldn't come up with any good method. In the end, they were just a group of weak farmers. At most they could curse the aloof Lord City Lord. How could they have a way to deal with this? Only old man Sarkozy was calm. After knitting his brows to think for a bit, he noticed that Cantona on the side had a faint smile on his lip. His heart skipped a beat as he asked, Cantona, this idiot city lord doing this is clearly forcing the canned fruit factory to close. What is Chairman Su's reaction to this? Cantona nodded at old man Sarkozy in praise. Seeing that everyone was looking over, he said with a smile, of course Chairman Su has made arrangements. I called you all here this time to ask what you think of this arrangement. Just say it, Chairman Su's arrangements are definitely good. That's right, following Chairman Su will make our lives better. Following this idiot city lord will only lead us down the path of death. Cantona, just say it. We'll follow Chairman Su's arrangements. You just need to listen to Chairman Su's arrangements for other things, but this time, I feel that you should seriously consider it. Cantona said, because Chairman Su's arrangements are for everyone to change places to farm. Change places to farm? Change to where? Everyone asked in doubt. Cantona revealed a smile. He had been shocked when he heard Su Yi's plan, but after these people heard it, they would be even more shocked than him. This place is the Principality of Constantine. Chapter 354. Chairman Su, do you really plan on closing the canned fruit factory in Koror Village? Elder Elucia slightly knit her brows as she looked at Su-Yi with a trace of worry in her eyes. I feel that it isn't good for you to keep giving in to Count Stark like this because it will only make him more and more excessive. If I don't give in, then I can only face him head-on. It's a pity that our new flyer and I don't have that kind of strength right now. Su-Yi revealed a smile, as if he didn't care about this matter at all. Of course, I won't keep giving in. When the time is right, I will naturally fight back. Count Stark is at his peak right now, but once this period is over, he will be the first to be sacrificed. Is it because of the political struggle in your Lampari kingdom? Elder Elucia looked at Su-Yi with a look of deep meaning. Su-Yi laughed and didn't continue talking about this topic. Instead, he turned to answer Elder Elucia's first question. As for the canned fruit factory, although there is no way for it to run smoothly right now, I won't close it and will keep it open. Why? If there is no work, what meaning is there in keeping the factory? Elder Elucia asked in a surprised voice. No, it has a lot of meaning. First, it is a symbol that our new flyer hasn't given up on the canned fruit business. Second, I'm very satisfied with the location of the factory. As long as the time is right, it can be opened again at any time. Su-Yi said. But didn't you already move the workers of the factory to the Principality of Constantine along with the Cantona Chamber of Commerce? After saying this, Elder Elucia gave a sigh of praise. Speaking of this, I never thought that Chairman Su would be this bold. You actually rented over 100,000 hectares of land from the Principality of Constantine. This is equal to a fifth of the farmland in the Principality of Constantine. This isn't much. Su-Yi revealed a faint smile. Actually, if possible, I would like to contract the entire Principality of Constantine's farmland. But it's a pity that the Principality of Constantine isn't that courageous. Elder Elucia pursed her lips and smiled. Chairman Su, why don't you just say that you want to buy the entire Principality of Constantine? If Duke Stantine is willing to sell it, I really want to buy it. Su-Yi shrugged. Of course, with the current strength of our Chamber of Commerce, it is indeed impossible to swallow the Principality of Constantine in one go. We can only slowly think of a way. Elder Elucia stared at Su-Yi for a while, before she shook her head and sighed. I feel that the Principality of Constantine has brought a tiger into its home. I'm very curious why Duke Stantine would agree to rent such a large piece of land to you. Could it be that he doesn't know the drawbacks of this? He knows, but he doesn't care, Su-Yi said with a smile. Compared to the future of the Principality of Constantine, Duke Stantine is clearly more concerned with the current benefits. Not to mention that the people of the Principality of Constantine are very lazy. Even if we don't rent it, the land that can be farmed will be in an abandoned state. Now that our Chamber of Commerce is renting this land, not only will we give him 300,000 gold coins a year, we will also give 30% of the food produced to the Principality of Constantine. They won't lose anything, so why wouldn't they agree? Elder Elucia thought for a bit before shaking her head with a sigh. I really don't understand you humans. Why are some humans as smart and hardworking as Chairman Su while others are as stupid and short-sighted as Duke Stantine? That's why I said to you a long time ago that there is a large difference between humans, unlike elves and dwarves who have the same personality. Su-Yi said with a smile. Perhaps this is a flaw that races other than humans have. Elder Elucia then asked, but Chairman Su, not only does your Chamber of Commerce have to pay 300,000 gold coins a year for this 100,000 hectares of land, you also have to give 30% of the food produced by the Principality of Constantine. I don't understand how your Chamber of Commerce earns money from this? Su-Yi looked at Elder Elucia and saw that she was asking for guidance, so he couldn't help smiling. Since the Nightsong tribe opened their own plastic processing factory, not only Amelud, who was the factory manager, but also Delil, who was the foreign affairs manager, began to absorb large amounts of human business knowledge. Even Elder Elucia didn't let go of any chance to learn from Sue. Sue was happy to see this, so he didn't hide it and replied, "If you go to the Principality of Constantine to investigate, you'll find that this duchy is truly blessed by the heavens. The land in the Principality of Constantine is very fertile and is very suitable for plants to grow. If you cultivate there, you only need to throw the seeds into the field, and then you'll be able to produce a good harvest. The only problem you need to pay attention to is the natural disasters." "It's that exaggerated?" Elder Elucia had a surprised expression. "No wonder the Moon Shadow tribe has more elven compatriots than our Nightsong tribe. It should be because of the good environment. You don't need to envy them. Now that the Nightsong tribe's living conditions are much better than before, isn't your population also rapidly increasing?" Speaking of this, Elder Elucia's face immediately showed a smile from the bottom of her heart. "Yes, this year hasn't ended yet, but our tribe has already produced 2 newborn elves. It's really a pleasant surprise." Seeing Elder Elucia's happy expression, Sue was speechless. The total population of the Nightsong tribe was close to 1,000. If it was a human, there would be dozens of babies born in a year. Even in the Lampari kingdom that was always plagued by famine, as long as it was in a peaceful period, the birth rate would not be lower than 20/1000. But the Nightsong tribe had only produced 2 newborn elves in a year, yet Elder Elucia was so happy. It was enough to show how low the birth rate of the elves was. Even if the elves had a longer lifespan than humans, so it was natural for them to have a lower birth rate, this birth rate was still too low. But Sue didn't have any special thoughts about this. Anyway, the birth rate of the elves was a good thing for humans. At least they didn't need to worry about the sudden increase in elves, which would pose a threat to humans. Elder Elucia, the new Flyers canned fruit factory and mine in the Principality of Constantine, have already begun construction. When the Cantona Chamber of Commerce stands firm in the Principality of Constantine, I plan on building a base in the Principality of Constantine. Does your Nightsong tribe want to take this chance to build a plastic processing factory in the Principality of Constantine? When I went to the Principality of Constantine last time, I found that there were many rubber trees there. This is a very useful thing, so if you grab this industry, you won't need to worry about living conditions in the future," Sue suggested. Elder Elucia nodded. "When Chairman Sue mentioned this matter to me last time, I already had this plan. With this chance, we can establish a closer relationship with the Moon Shadow tribe, so I'm very happy." "That's good. Next time Chairman Cantona comes back from the Principality of Constantine, it's best if you send some people with him to continue investigating the Principality of Constantine. At the same time, you can contact the Moon Shadow tribe," Sue said. "All right." After discussing this with Sue, Elder Elucia didn't directly return to the Falling Rain Forest. Rather, she headed to the Falling Rain Valley to inspect the Nightsong tribe's plastic processing factory. Since the Nightsong tribe's plastic processing factory was built in the Falling Rain Valley, Elder Elucia had changed her method of staying in the Falling Rain Forest for several hundred years. She would come to the Falling Rain Valley every once in a while to take a look. Other than discussing some things with Sue, her biggest goal was to see how the plastic processing factory was doing. It should be said that in the months after the plastic processing factory was built, the situation was very good. With Sue pulling the strings and Delil working hard, the Nightsong tribe's plastic processing factory had already opened up a certain situation in Banta City. After helping Big Sister Sarah make the 100 plastic clothes hangers, he received high praise from Big Sister Sarah, and then an order for 1,000 more plastic clothes hangers was placed. Then, with Big Sister Sarah's example and the promotion of the Banta Times, the plastic clothes hangers quickly became popular in Banta City. These plastic clothes hangers were very smooth, so there was no need to worry about ruining clothes like the rough wooden clothes hangers. They could also be customized in various colors and styles, making it very convenient to use. The most important thing was that the price of the plastic clothes hangers was much cheaper than the wooden clothes hangers. Big Sister Sarah's wooden clothes hangers could only be considered normal quality, so they were relatively cheap. On average, each one cost 17 silver coins. As for the Nightsong Tribe's plastic clothes hangers, they were only sold for 13 silver coins, so the price was without a doubt much cheaper. So in just a single month, the Nightsong Tribe's plastic processing factory had sold over 40,000 plastic clothes hangers. All the clothes hangers in the various clothing stores in Banta City had been turned into plastic clothes hangers. For the Nightsong Tribe's plastic processing factory, because the materials came from the falling rainforest and the workers were all elves of the Nightsong Tribe, the cost was almost negligible for them. So the 5,000 gold coins from the 40,000 plastic clothes hangers was almost a net profit. Although this wasn't much money, because from beginning to end, other than Sui and Steel giving some help, everything else was done by the elves of the Nightsong Tribe alone. So for them, the sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that these 5,000 gold coins gave them far surpassed the value of the 5,000 gold coins themselves. It was also because of this that Elder Elucia and the other elves of the Nightsong Tribe were filled with gratitude towards Sui. If it wasn't for Suyi's support and encouragement with just them, they might not have been able to take this step in 100 years. Moreover, with the hot sales of the plastic clothes hangers, after knowing that the Nightsong Tribe's plastic factory was going to produce plastic mannequins, including the Armani Chamber of Commerce, all the clothing companies and stores in Banta City immediately placed orders. Moreover, there were many other companies that came to ask Delil if they could use plastic to make the parts or finished products that they needed. So during this time, whether it was Delil or the elves of the Nightsong Tribe, they were all very busy. Of course, they were happy to be busy. Seeing Elder Elucia leave with a bit of a rush, Sui couldn't help smiling. He turned to the road outside the falling rain valley and looked over the motorcade that was over 200 meters long. Finally his eyes fell onto Chairman Cruz, Chairman Renersa, and Chairman Vincent, who had been waiting for a while, and he waved his hand. "All right, let's go." Chapter 355. The several hundred-meter-long caravan moved forward on the black rice wasteland. Looking from above, it looked like an earthworm wriggling on the endless land. Sui floated in the air and looked at the wisp of green that appeared on the horizon with a trace of a smile on his face. The elves were indeed worthy of being a race that lived in the forest. They had an extremely strong affinity with plants. In a place like the Black Rice Wasteland that was clearly not suitable for plants to grow, the elves of the Nightsong Tribe actually took less than a year to forcefully grow a green forest on the wasteland outside of the Valar tribe. According to the report of the elven warriors that came back from the Black Rice Wasteland, the green forest outside of the Valar tribe had already exceeded 30 hectares. It had even exceeded the area that the Valar tribe controlled. In order to push forward the Black Rice Wasteland's Green Forest Plan, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce had reached an agreement with the 4 Beastmen tribes around the Valar tribe. They allowed the elves to change the vegetation in the areas controlled by these tribes. The price that the new flyer paid was to hire no less than 100 Beastmen from the 4 Beastman tribes as workers for the new flyer. They also had to solve the issue of labor permits for the Beastmen. This deal sounded like the new flyer was forced to accept the conditions of the Beastmen in order to make the Black Rice Wasteland green, but in reality, this was all within Suyi's plan. He was very clear that if he wanted to firmly take root in the Black Rice Wasteland, it was not a wise choice to directly clash with the Beastmen. The best method was to use a policy of conciliation like the Valar tribe and bring them into the new flyer's system. Because there were already over 100 people working in the non-ferrous metal mine and the non-ferrous metal smelting factory in the new flyer, even if Sui didn't say anything, the Valar tribe's werewolves would still do their best to protect their hard-earned jobs. The first time, Su-yi had left behind 100 elven warriors and 200 dwarven warriors. After a change of guard, there were only 50 elven warriors and 100 dwarven warriors left. And now, these guards were all newly recruited human guards, and there were only 100 of them. The reason things had turned out this way was because of the Valar tribe's change in attitude. This greatly reduced the danger faced by the mine and the non-ferrous metal smelting factory. This was the same for the other orc tribes. After seeing the rapid change in the Valar tribe's lifestyle after cooperating with the humans, the 4 orc tribes that were closest to them all had thoughts of cooperating with the humans. And it just so happened that Vincent, the chairman of the Armani Chamber of Commerce, came looking for them and gave them this opportunity. With the new flyer and the Valar werewolf tribe acting as the middleman, the 4 beastmen tribes finally reached a cooperation agreement with the 4 human companies. In a place that was closer to the Black Rice Wasteland than the Valar tribe, the 4 companies would build a small base and open several factories. Compared to the household magic machine factories opened by the new flyer, the textile factory opened by the Armani Chamber of Commerce needed more workers. But because of the different job requirements, the textile factory opened by the Armani Chamber of Commerce would recruit some beastmen who were more meticulous and nimble. For example, most of the female beastmen from the Fox tribe and Rabbit tribe were recruited by the Armani Chamber of Commerce into the textile factory, adding up to over 500 of them. The magic machine factory opened by the new flyer only recruited 200 beastmen workers. In order to fulfill the conditions he agreed to with the beastmen tribes, he was forced to recruit another 200 beastmen workers. He placed them under the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and had these beastmen workers follow the skilled workers sent by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to build a cement factory. Other than these 3 companies that had deep cooperation, although the Renekton Chamber of Commerce only traded with the beastmen before and didn't have experience in building a factory, with the support of the new flyer, they were able to build a small workshop to buy herbs. Although the scale of the factories was much smaller than the other 3 companies, because of the Renekton Chamber of Commerce's reputation in the hearts of the beastmen and the way the beastmen were used to trading, they were much more popular than the other 3 companies. This time the 4 companies had gathered a large amount of goods to transport here. They were prepared to officially start building this base, and then work hard to put it into use before the end of the year. Su-yi looked at the Valar tribe surrounded by the forest in front of him before turning to the left, heading deeper into the Black Rice Wasteland. If he went another 30 kilometers in that direction, he would reach the base that the 4 companies had agreed on. This location was right in the center of the Valar tribe and the 4 surrounding beastmen tribes. According to Su-yi's plan, this base would be developed into a small town step by step, becoming the first fulcrum of humans entering the Black Rice Wasteland. If everything went smoothly, Su-yi planned to gradually spread this model across the Black Rice Wasteland. In the end, he would bring all the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland into the new flyer's system. He would have these beastmen work for human companies and completely stop the beastmen from having any thoughts of attacking humans. But before reaching this point, there were still many problems that needed to be dealt with. In other words, the new flyer had more guards than the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Moreover, half of them were powerful elven warriors and dwarven warriors. In terms of battle strength, they could easily defeat several thousand human warriors. Therefore, in this joint operation of the 4 companies, the new flyer's guards became the main characters. The other 3 companies' guards only played a supporting role. Chairman Su, since the elves are willing to accept your new flyer's employment to do normal work, then they can also become guards, right? Why didn't you let the elves officially join your company's guards? Chairman Renersa looked at the elven warriors and beloved warriors in the back of the motorcade with envious eyes while asking this to Su-yi. I said before that the elves are very arrogant and aren't willing to sell their lives for us humans, so I didn't force them to join the guards. Su-yi replied. Anyway, they just need to listen to my command. It doesn't matter what the name is. Chairman Renursa shook his head. There is still a big difference. If the elves suddenly change their mind, you don't have any power to stop them. Do I have the ability to stop them from leaving after they join the guards? Sui asked back. In the end, it depends on what benefits I can bring to the elves to work for me. At least I'm doing a good job in this aspect. As for what will happen in the future, we can only wait and see. Chairman Renursa knit his brows and his eyes fell on the new flyers' human guards patrolling on both sides of the caravan. After thinking for a bit, he pointed at the human guards and said, "Actually, these human guards are also very good. Your new flyer has money and can provide your own weapons and equipment. You can find more human guards like this." Sui could only bitterly smile. Did Chairman Renursa think that these human guards were easy to get? For these elite human warriors who had retired from the Lampari Kingdom's army, the new flyer had paid a large price. Chapter 356. Chairman Renursa didn't linger on the issue of the guards and quickly changed the topic to the target of their operation. Sui wasn't good at this kind of problem and didn't care much about it. Thinking that they might have to stay up late, he went back to the carriage to have a good sleep. The caravan didn't stop near the Valar tribe and directly went to the predetermined location. When the caravan stopped at the predetermined location, it was already nighttime. Sui jumped off the carriage and waved his hand to call over the guards to ask about the situation. However, the three of them said that they didn't find anything strange, so Sui could only wave his hand and have them continue to be on guard. It was already nighttime, so it was impossible to create a complete camp. The caravan simply gathered together and made a simple camp, planning to spend the night here. It was already the end of October, and there was no shelter in the Black Rice Wasteland. After entering the night, the surrounding air was a bit cold. Sui wrinkled his nose and couldn't help saying in an emotional voice, "If it was me, my first choice would be to go home and sleep. I wouldn't be like these idiot beastmen, coming out to do this kind of hard work on a cold night like this. They might even lose their lives." Chairman Renursa laughed on the side. The beastmen have been living in this kind of harsh environment since they were young, so they aren't as delicate as Chairman Su. Of course, it is their fault for coming here to die. But who told them to have ideas about us? That's right. You said that if they learned from the Valar tribe and cooperated with us, they would be able to earn money and live comfortably. How good would that be? Why would they make themselves suffer? Sui sighed. It's a pity. You think it's cooperation, but in the eyes of the racist Beastman Independent Legion, it's us humans who want to corrupt the Beastmen. That's why they are shouting slogans to resist. Sui sneered. Corrupt? Their meaning is that the Beastmen don't have clothes to wear, don't have enough food to eat, and have to suffer in a house with no ventilation on all sides? I think any Beastman with a bit of brain wouldn't listen to this kind of nonsense. I'm sorry to disappoint you. There are quite a few Beastmen who agree with them. According to the estimates given by the intelligence, we might face a number of orcs that far exceeds our imagination tonight. A motley crew, not worth mentioning. Sui curled his lips, his face full of disdain. The last time they were attacked by this so-called Orc Independent Legion, Sui wasn't fully prepared. In the end, he had to rely on himself to stabilize the situation. However, he came prepared this time, and Sui was confident that no matter how many orcs came, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. The first night was still peaceful, but as soon as it was late at night, when the night was the darkest, abnormalities immediately appeared. Looking at the dense mass of black figures on the distant horizon and feeling the tremors coming from the ground, Cruz's complexion changed slightly, and he exclaimed, "Crap, aren't there too many people?" Sui and Chairman Renursa looked at each other and smiled at the same time. "That's good, it's not too out of our expectations." Sui waved his hand and the human guard Chief Heart, the dwarf warrior chief Omar, and the elf warrior chief Furio standing behind him all took a step forward. Follow the plan from before. I won't interfere with your orders, but I only have one request. Seeing the three of them looking at him with serious expressions, Sui waved his arm and said in a deep voice, "Defeat them with all your strength. Completely destroy the fighting spirit of these damn beast men for me. Make them not dare to have any thoughts of resistance in the future. Do you understand?" Hart and Omar loudly complied. Fario solemnly bowed to Sui and then the three of them left. Chairman Renursa on the side laughed and said, "Chairman Su, well said. We want to make these damn fellows feel pain and let them know that it's best if they don't have any ideas about us in the future to avoid future troubles." After saying this, Renursa immediately gave an order to the guard leader of the Renekton Chamber of Commerce. Chairman Cruz saw the two of them filled with battle intent and killing intent, so he helplessly shook his head. He called over the guard leader of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce as well as the guard leader of the Armani Chamber of Commerce, who didn't come today. After saying a few words, he had the guards of the two companies move out as well. The four companies had used almost all of the guards of the four companies for this joint operation. There were a total of 1,500 human warriors, 200 elf warriors, and 300 dwarf warriors. If this was in a normal situation, this battle strength would definitely cause everyone to raise their eyebrows. However, the beastmen that had been lured by the bait released by the four companies far surpassed the number of beastmen that had attacked last time. Using the night's light, one could see that there were at least 5,000 beastmen attacking this time. However, faced with enemies that far surpassed last time, although Chairman Cruz still had a bit of worry on his face, he wasn't as panicked as last time. He even had the leisure to complain to Sui. "If we knew that there would be this many beastmen coming this time, we would have made more preparations." Sui revealed a faint smile. "Relax, this preparation is already enough. Just watch." While the two were talking, the beastmen in front were already less than 500 meters away from the camp. Sui gave a soft roar, "Prepare the trebuchets." As soon as his voice fell, there were several pieces of cloth in the motorcade's camp that were opened before there were the sounds of machines being activated. 4 dazzling magic arrays were activated and the 4 magic trebuchets went from being compressed to being complete in just a few breaths of time. "Listen to my orders, 1, 2, 3. Fire!" The one who shouted this wasn't Sui, but rather Hart. With this order, 4 giant rocks that were close to half a meter in diameter came out of the magic trebuchet. They flew over 400 meters and landed in the middle of the beastmen charging over. The giant rocks had the powerful impact of the magic trebuchets and slammed down. There was a thunderous sound as they created a large hole that was close to 10 meters in the ground of the black rice wasteland. The beastmen that were hit by the giant rocks naturally had no chance of escaping. As for the beastmen on the side, even if they didn't die on the spot, they were bleeding from their orifices from the giant shockwave and lost their battle strength. However, these 4 boulders were just the beginning. After the first 4 boulders were sent out, in just half a minute, the 4 magic trebuchets sent out another 4 boulders. They mercilessly fell into the formation of the beastmen, creating a rain of blood. Personally witnessing the terrifying might of the magic trebuchets, Chairman Renursa and Chairman Cruz's eyes couldn't help popping out in shock. Chairman Renursa couldn't help saying in a shocked voice, "These magic trebuchets really are this terrifying. It's no wonder the Northern Army could easily defeat the Sac Kingdom's camp with just 3 magic trebuchets and take back the Muerto Mountains. If the Northern Army had several more, the Sac Kingdom wouldn't have been able to resist the Northern Army's attack at all. Wouldn't their capital have been taken by the Northern Army?" Sui shook his head. "That is impossible. Although these magic trebuchets are very powerful, their flaws are very clear. First is that they aren't flexible enough. They can only be used in positional battles, but they can't be used once they meet an enemy that is agile or fast. They can deal with these dumb beastmen, but if they were used against the Sack Kingdom, they would be scattered by the Sack Kingdom's cavalry. Yes, this is indeed a problem. Chairman Renursa nodded. This thing is indeed good for attacking, but it has limited uses for defending. Then, other than not being flexible enough, what other flaws are there? The other flaw is actually more fatal than not being flexible enough. Our company can solve the weakness of being flexible by increasing the mobility of the magic trebuchets, but our company can't solve this weakness. Sui said. What weakness can't even be overcome by your company? Chairman Cruz couldn't help asking in a curious voice. That's expensive. Sui gave a bitter laugh. He pointed at the magic trebuchet behind him that had stopped firing and was reloading, but it was clear that it wouldn't have a chance to fire again. The first magic trebuchet that we developed, which is the magic trebuchet for the Northern Army, costs at least 1,000 gold coins for one. Although the new version of the magic trebuchets fire faster and have better quality, the cost is much higher, reaching 1,300 gold coins. That can't be considered expensive. As the chairman of two large companies, whether it was Chairman Cruz or Chairman Renursa, they didn't think that a trivial 1,000 gold coins was anything. For such a powerful weapon, not to mention 1,300 gold coins, even if it was 1,100 gold coins, there would be countless people rushing to buy it. That's right, I was worried that if you used it this openly, it would attract the attention of the other countries. Chairman Cruz said in a worried voice. They will notice it sooner or later. Sui gave a shrug, not caring about this at all. As for you not thinking it's expensive, that's because you all have money. But it's a pity that our royal army is terrifyingly poor. Actually, these 4 magic trebuchets were prepared to be sold to the royal army, but the royal army told me that because they spent too much on the Muerto Mountains, the royal army couldn't even take out a trivial 5,000 gold coins. I felt that since I had nothing to do and since there was an operation, I might as well use it myself. Chairman Cruz and Chairman Renursa looked at each other, speechless at the same time. Although they understood the financial situation of the kingdom, they never thought that the respected royal army wouldn't even have a trivial 5,000 gold coins. This really was a bit too shabby. Chapter 357. Seeing the expressions on their faces, Sui continued, If our Lampari kingdom's finances could improve, I feel that the Sack kingdom wouldn't be a match for us at all. We wouldn't need to hurt ourselves just to take back the Muerto Mountains. Chairman Cruz and Chairman Renursa gave bitter smiles at the same time. Of course they understood this, especially after seeing the terrifying might of the 4 magic trebuchets developed by the new flyer. They were even more convinced of this. But they were also clear that the Lampari kingdom's finances weren't bad for just a day or two, so it wasn't easy to improve. Actually, it's very easy. Sui shook his head and said, Have you forgotten, wasn't Banta City very poor in the past few years? Why did it suddenly become much better in the past 2 years? Chairman Cruz rolled his eyes at Sui. Chairman Su, you don't have to choose this time to boast, right? Who doesn't know that our Banta City's changes are all because of your new flyer's development? Sui revealed a faint smile. I'm not boasting, I just want to remind you. Banta City's development is because of the magic machine industry, so why can't we spread Banta City's model to the entire Lampari kingdom? Think about how much Banta City's revenue increased last year? If the entire Lampari kingdom had this kind of growth, not to mention 4 magic trebuchets, the army headquarters could buy 40 or even 400 of them without a problem. Chairman Cruz kept giving a bitter smile. It's easy for you to say, but the problem is that if you want to spread the magic machine industry to the entire Lampari kingdom, it isn't an easy matter. Can't you see that you've met such a large problem just in Banta City? The Lord City Lord, he Chairman Renersa spat out a few words before closing his mouth with a bitter smile. He and Chairman Cruz both had helpless looks on their faces. As the chairman of one of the large companies in Banta City, of course they knew better than normal citizens why Count Stark was targeting Sue and the new flyer. However, it was precisely because they knew the real reason that they felt even more helpless in their hearts. They were all outstanding businessmen, but not outstanding politicians. With their current status, it was impossible for them to intervene in such political matters. Even if they couldn't accept the unfair treatment of New Flyer and the changes in Banta City, they couldn't do a thing. Of course, Sue wasn't talking to them about this matter because he wanted to get practical support from them. In fact, he just wanted to test their true attitude. There was no need to mention his old ally, President Cruz. Sue's main concern was President Renersa's attitude. Because the Renekton Chamber of Commerce didn't cooperate with New Flyer for as long as the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce did with New Flyer, the Renekton Chamber of Commerce's attitude represented the attitude of most of the companies in Banta City. Looking at it now, at least most of the companies in Banta City supported New Flyer and were dissatisfied with Count Stark. Actually, this was also nonsense. After Count Stark came, he immediately implemented agricultural promotion policies. The large companies of Banta City suffered direct losses, so it would be strange if the merchants liked this Count Stark. While the few of them were chatting leisurely, the battle on the periphery had never stopped. But there wasn't much that could be said about the battle. Although there were over 5,000 beastmen attacking, with the constant bombardment of the 4 magic trebuchets, the beastmen had suffered heavy losses when they charged from 500 meters to 200 meters away. Their formation had been broken into pieces. When they saw that they were close, the 4 terrifying magic trebuchets finally stopped shooting out giant rock. When they were excited and prepared to charge again, they found that there was a dense rain of arrows that covered the sky that they couldn't dodge at all. Seeing the beastmen fall to the rain of arrows, Chairman Cruz and Chairman Renersa were speechless again. The two were in a daze for a while before they couldn't help turning to Sue. Chairman Renersa said with a bitter smile, "Chairman Sue, why do I feel that it's enough to just have your New Flyers guards and there's no need for the guards of our companies to make a move?" "That's right, how is this a battle? It's a massacre." Seeing that the battle was unexpectedly easy, Chairman Cruz's nervous expression gradually faded, and he even had the leisure to make a joke. "This is a joint operation of our 4 companies. You can't just have our New Flyer do it, right?" Sue said with a smile. "Then again, it's better to be prepared." Chairman Renersa nodded. He looked at the battle outside and saw that almost all of the New Flyer's human guards were holding a magic repeating crossbow. After thinking for a bit, he asked, "Chairman Sue, are you selling this thing?" "I really want to sell it, but it's a pity that it's the same as the magic trebuchets. It's restricted by the Army headquarters. Unless the Army headquarters agrees, we can use it ourselves, but we can't sell it to others," Sue said with a shrug. "Even if I use it myself, it's because of my status as a Viscount and Lord. Our New Flyer can't use it in name." Chairman Renersa wasn't that surprised. For a powerful weapon like this, of course it would be under the special control of the kingdom's army headquarters. Otherwise, if it ended up in another country like the Sac Kingdom, it would become a threat to the Lampari Kingdom. Seeing the large number of quiver that was half a person high by the feet of the New Flyer's human guards, Chairman Renersa couldn't help knitting his brows. He then asked, "Chairman Sue, this magic repeating crossbow is good, but isn't it a waste of arrows? I can see that in just this short period of time, a single guard has already used several quiver. According to what you said about 20 arrows per quiver, that's close to 300 arrows. This consumption, isn't it a bit too high?" Sue gave a shrug. "War costs money to begin with. In my opinion, money is better than money. Spending money is better than dying. Money can be earned again, but people can't come back to life after dying." Chairman Renersa could only give a bitter laugh. Looking at the rain of arrows that covered the sky and the beastmen that fell like wheat, he shook his head and said, "If the army headquarters could be as extravagant as you, the sacked kingdom would have already been flattened by us." Sui smiled and didn't say anything. The army headquarters was as extravagant as him? That was a joke. In order to deal with this joint operation, Sui had brought out all the resources that New Flyer had. Other than ensuring that this operation would be a perfect success, it was also to test the effects of these things. Based on the current situation, the effects were excellent, but there was a problem that came with it, which was that the consumption was too high. In order to achieve this effect, if Suyi's investment was converted into gold coins, it would be at least 30,000 gold coins. And this was just a battle with a motley crew of beastmen. If it was a battle between the Northern Army and the Sack Kingdom's army, the cost would have increased by several times. Major Mac Conley had told him that after the battle in the Muerto Mountains, the army headquarters couldn't even take out 5,000 gold coins. Sui wasn't surprised at all. If they wanted to rely on equipment to crush the enemy, of course they had to spend money. When the New Flyer guards took out their magic repeating crossbows, it meant that the beastmen's ambush had failed. It was only 200 meters, but it was like a natural moat for these beastmen that they couldn't cross at all. Under the endless rain of arrows, the beastmen charging over fell wave after wave, not having any means of resisting at all. Compared to humans, the beastmen's living environment wasn't good, so it was impossible for them to have good weapons. They could resist completely by relying on their physical strength, gaining an absolute advantage in close combat with humans. But when Sui used a large killing weapon like the magic trebuchets, adding in the support of the magic repeating crossbows, the beastmen didn't have a chance to fight at all. There were over 5,000 beastmen who could break through the rain of arrows and charge into the defensive circle, but there were less than 1,000 beastmen in the end. Moreover, these less than 1,000 beastmen were all heavily injured and their battle strength had greatly decreased. The guards of the 4 companies had already rested for a while and their morale had reached a peak. With an order, they charged out like tigers coming out of the mountains. The beastmen finally had a chance to fight the human guards, but they were shocked to find that the armor the human guards were wearing was very hard and their weapons were very sharp. With the difference in equipment, the human guards' battle strength was close to the beastmen who didn't have any armor and their weapons were mostly wooden sticks or stones that they picked up from somewhere. Adding in the high morale of one side and the low morale of the other side that had just suffered a heavy blow, when both sides began to fight in close combat, it was a one-sided situation. In just 10 minutes, most of the less than 1,000 beastmen that charged over had fallen. The remaining several hundred beastmen saw that the situation was bad, and they couldn't help turning to run. However, when they had just run a bit, they heard the sound of giant rocks flying through the air that made their hearts skip a beat. The 4 magic trebuchets that hadn't been put away were activated again, and giant rocks fell down on the fleeing beastmen. Although the beastmen's formation was very scattered and the hit rate wasn't high, it still killed at least half of the fleeing beastmen and shattered their final bit of fighting spirit. Seeing the remaining 100 beastmen fleeing into the dark horizon of the wasteland, Sui felt a bit of pity in his heart. If they were equipped with some war horses, they might be able to get the guards to charge forward and kill the remaining 100 over orcs to prevent any future trouble. It was a pity that battle horses were a very rare resource in the Lampari kingdom. Even if Sui had a good relationship with the army, he couldn't equip his company's guards with them. Chapter 358. Compared to Sui, the others were very satisfied with this result. They were even shocked and filled with disbelief. According to common sense, 5,000 beastmen facing less than 2,000 human warriors, even if there were 200 elven warriors and 300 dwarven warriors, it would be a crushing situation. Even if the beastmen didn't have suitable equipment and the difference in battle strength was reduced, it was still a large advantage. However, the result in front of everyone was that only 100 of the 5,000 beastmen had escaped and the rest had been wiped out. On their side, there were only 3 human guards who were heavily injured in the final clash, and 100 people who were lightly injured. There wasn't even a single one who died. This kind of result, if someone who hadn't personally experienced this battle heard it, no one would believe it. Even those who had personally experienced this battle didn't dare believe it. Everyone first looked up at the 4 magic trebuchets. Everyone was very clear that the biggest reason for this result was the 4 magic trebuchets. If it was the old trebuchets the army used before, it was impossible to use them for defense because the old trebuchets had a very low firing frequency. It was already good enough that they could fire 1 or 2 rocks during the beastman's charge. But this magic trebuchet could shoot out a giant rock in less than half a minute, and its range far surpassed the old magic trebuchet, reaching a terrifying 500 meters. The beastmen charging over were attacked by the magic trebuchet from far away, and it had shot out close to 10 giant rocks, completely changing the situation of the battle. The second contributor was the magic repeating crossbows in the hands of the new flyer human guards. These magic repeating crossbows were extremely fast and easy to fire. All one had to do was install the arrow box, aim it, and press the switch. The 20 arrows in the box would all be shot out in half a minute. What was even more excessive was that because the arrows fired by the magic array in the magic repeating crossbow, their firing speed and range were much higher than normal arrows. One magic repeating crossbow might not be a big deal, but when 500 human guards each held a magic repeating crossbow and were equipped with enough arrow boxes, the power of 500 magic repeating crossbows firing at the same time could not be described as terrifying. If it was said that the 4 magic trebuchets played a decisive role in destroying the formation of the 5,000 beastmen, then the rain of arrows from the magic repeating crossbows was the greatest contribution to killing the beastmen. In the end, the reason why the guards of the 4 merchant guilds had suffered so few casualties was due to the quality of the weapons and armor provided by New Flyer. According to the evaluations of many veteran guards, the quality of the weapons and armors obtained from New Flyer this time was even better than the weapons and armors made by the best blacksmiths they had ever used. Therefore, in conclusion, with such a great disparity in strength, it resulted in a result that no one dared to believe. It was entirely because the difference in armaments between the two sides was too great. But even after creating this shocking result, Su-Yi, who was the most important person in creating this result, was still knitting his brows, as if he wasn't satisfied. Chairman Cruz and Chairman Renersa couldn't help curiously asking Su-Yi why he wasn't satisfied. Su-Yi thought about it before replying. My idea was to kill these beastmen before they could approach us, but I never thought that there would be over 1,000 beastmen charging over in the end. If there were more, it wouldn't be that easy to deal with them. The two rolled their eyes at Su-Yi. Kill them all before the orcs even get close to us? How was that possible? The beastmen weren't idiots. Would they just stand there and let you kill them? Seeing the looks of disbelief on their faces, Su-Yi looked at the two of them with a look of disdain. Humph, these fellows who haven't seen the world. If they knew that Earth's army could eliminate enemies from thousands of kilometers away, wouldn't they faint from fright? With the battle ending and such a shocking result, it also meant that the 4 companies' joint operation was a great success. This time, the reason why he spent so much effort to set up the bait and purposely brought a large pile of goods into the Black Rice Wasteland was to lure out the Beastmen Independent Legion, who still held strong hostility towards humans. Then, he would give them a heavy blow and resolve the troubles that the 4 companies might encounter here. He believed that after the powerful battle strength of the 4 companies, there shouldn't be any blind beastmen who would take the initiative to provoke the 4 companies. Therefore, the factories and bases established by the 4 companies would be much safer. Naturally, to Su-Yi, the best way to obtain peace wasn't to kill, but to cooperate. As long as the beastmen in the Black Rice Wasteland knew that they could only obtain a better life by cooperating with humans, then there wouldn't be any more beastmen who would find trouble with the human companies. However, most beastmen believed in the strong. Only by displaying their strength would the four companies be able to smoothly invest in the Black Rice Wasteland. Therefore, Sue-Yi didn't mind displaying his most powerful battle strength in this operation and planned to crush the resistance of the beastmen in one fell swoop. Reality proved that the results were not bad. In the next few days, the four companies' joint caravans began to officially set up camp here and began to construct their bases. There weren't any blind beastmen who dared to have any thoughts about this place. The four beastmen tribes that had agreed to cooperate with the four companies even sent their beastmen to help the workers construct their bases. After all, after witnessing the changes in the Valar Wolfman tribe, these beastmen were filled with longing and expectation for this kind of life. They also wanted to have a good life where they could eat their fill and have clothes to wear. When this place that was over 50 kilometers deep in the Black Rice Wasteland was being built, Sue-Yi left this place. He went to the Valar tribe's mines and the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's non-ferrous metal smelting factory to investigate. The mine was already operating normally and could currently mine 20 tons of non-ferrous metal ores every day, so there wasn't much to worry about. However, the non-ferrous metal smelting factory met with an obstacle. Although smelting non-ferrous metals looked similar to smelting steel on the surface, the actual operation was much worse. Sue-Yi didn't specialize in smelting non-ferrous metals, so he could only give some suggestions based on his experience in designing non-ferrous metal smelting machines on Earth. As for the rest of the details, he had to rely on the workers of this factory to figure it out themselves. Fortunately, New Flyer might lack other things, but the dwarves who were proficient in mining and smelting were not lacking. When Sue-Yi opened this non-ferrous metal smelting factory, he directly transferred close to 300 dwarven workers and 500 human workers who had experience working in the Falling Rain Valley as support. This allowed this non-ferrous metal smelting factory to speed up the research and production progress. Although the non-ferrous metal smelting wasn't completely researched yet, under the hard work of these experienced dwarven craftsmen, the progress was very fast. It was believed that by the beginning of next year, they could successfully smelt aluminum, lead, tin, tungsten, and other non-ferrous metals according to Sue-Yi's requirements. If this non-ferrous metal smelting factory could successfully complete the smelting research, not only would it mean that New Flyer would have a large amount of non-ferrous metals to use in the future, it would also speed up the research of materials and enrich the product line. There was also a very important strategic meaning, which was that they could cooperate with the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce on the non-ferrous metal mines in the Lampari Kingdom. According to the dwarves' exploration, the Lampari Kingdom wasn't particularly rich in iron ore. Instead, it was rich in non-ferrous metals. For modern industry, steel was the most important industrial material, but non-ferrous metals were also indispensable. Moreover, they weren't as easy to find as iron ore. Therefore, from this aspect, the Lampari Kingdom had a unique advantage. Of course, these were all long-term considerations. For now, the New Flyer's investment in the Valar tribe's mine and non-ferrous metal smelting factory was only a net investment. They couldn't produce any profits for the time being. However, Sue-Yi wasn't in a hurry. Establishing a magic machine industrial system was a huge project and couldn't be rushed. As a mechanical engineer, he had far more patience than others. Not to mention that the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's current operating situation was quite good. Because of the popularity of the magic machines, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's profits were increasing each month. Although the investment cost was large, with the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's current financial situation, it was very easy to deal with. The only problem was the Lampari Kingdom's internal politics. For this, Sue-Yi couldn't do anything for now. Although he could barely enter the ranks of nobles in the Lampari kingdom, he was still far from being able to decide the high-level political situation of the Lampari kingdom. Of course, this didn't mean that he couldn't give Seveni any support. On the contrary, his support was very large. Thinking of this, Su-yi revealed a confident smile. If the Lampari kingdom hadn't tasted the sweetness before, he wouldn't be able to affect it. But this time, the army headquarters had tasted the sweetness of an easy victory in the battle for the Muerto Mountains. Su-yi didn't believe that they wouldn't do anything about it. Chapter 359. Lampuri 13th was sitting in the small garden in the royal palace's backyard with a blanket over his legs. He was facing the rare warm sun of early winter as he slowly read the report in his hand. This report was submitted by the Royal Army Headquarters 2 days ago. This was his third time reading it today, but he was still very serious, because this report was a summary of the battle in the Muerto Mountains. As a king who had ascended to the throne 10 years ago and then calmed the chaos in the most difficult situation, the current King Lampuri 13th had a better understanding of the military than the previous kings and placed more importance on it. After being on the throne for 10 years, he knew that the conflict between the Lampari kingdom and the Sak kingdom in the north had a large effect on the Lampari kingdom. Because of the suppression of the Sak kingdom, the Lampari kingdom was forced to spend large amounts of gold coins on the Northern Army each year. The Royal Army Headquarters spent most of their military budget on the Northern Army each year, which was barely enough to stop the Sak kingdom's attack. However, the Lampari kingdom was also stuck in this swamp. They had to spend large amounts of military budget each year, so they couldn't escape at all. Actually, Lampuri 13th was also clear on the Sak kingdom's strategy. The reason why the Sak kingdom didn't start an all-out war with the Lampari kingdom was because they wanted to rely on their national strength that was much stronger than the Lampari kingdom's to drag out the Lampari kingdom and then take down the Lampari kingdom without shedding a single drop of blood. Rather, if they really went all out, perhaps the Lampari kingdom would fight back. Even if they won in the end, the Sak kingdom would suffer heavy losses and the other countries would benefit from it. But knowing this was one thing, the Lampari kingdom didn't have a way to solve this problem. This was because the Sak kingdom was stronger than the Lampari kingdom and had the initiative. The Lampari kingdom could barely hold on, so how could they think of a way to fight back? In this battle of the Muerto Mountains, although the Sak kingdom was aggressive in the beginning, as if they wanted to go all out, they only took control of the Muerto Mountains and didn't push forward. This action was clearly to put more pressure on the Lampari kingdom, forcing the Lampari kingdom to invest more in the Northern Army. This would make the already heavy financial burden of the Lampari kingdom even worse. But the Sak kingdom never would have thought that the Lampari kingdom's Northern Army would suddenly be equipped with new equipment, as well as the terrifying magic trebuchets. Adding in the pure steel arrows that didn't cost any money, they took back the Muerto Mountains from their hands. In the end, the Northern Army controlled the Muerto Mountains and the Sak kingdom faced a large amount of pressure. They had to increase their investment in the Hungry Wolf Regiment and the Fierce Tiger Regiment to prevent the Northern Army from counterattacking. As for attacking the Muerto Mountains, with the support of the Northern Army's incomparably powerful equipment, they couldn't think of that in a short period of time. But in the report submitted by the Lampari Kingdom's army headquarters, they didn't ask for merit from the king, rather they asked for help. According to the army headquarters, in the Battle of the Muerto Mountains, although the Northern Army performed bravely and took back the important control of the Muerto Mountains, the price the army headquarters had to pay was 170,000 gold coins, which almost emptied the army headquarters' military budget for this year. In order to maintain control of the Muerto Mountains, the Northern Army had to spend over 40,000 gold coins a month. Not mentioning anything else, just the transportation cost was over 10,000 gold coins. And this was the number that the army headquarters had racked their brains to save. In this report, the Army headquarters had clearly listed all the data and clearly stated that the Army headquarters had no money. If the kingdom's finances didn't increase, the Army headquarters wouldn't be able to support themselves at all. Correspondingly, the Muerto Mountains would change hands again. This report seemed like it was threatening the king to give money, but Lampuri XIII was clear that the Army headquarters was telling the truth, because he understood the kingdom's finances better than anyone else. The kingdom's finances didn't have money, so naturally the Army headquarters didn't have money. But this was a problem that had to be solved, otherwise the Northern Army's efforts would be wasted and the Lampari kingdom would be in an even more passive position. But if they found a way to increase the military budget, the Lampari kingdom and the Lampari kingdom would sink deeper into this quagmire. It would worsen the kingdom's finances and create a vicious cycle. How could they break this vicious cycle? Lampuri XIII thought about it before picking up another report from the table beside him. This report was the kingdom's autumn harvest report that the Agriculture Department had submitted a while ago. In this report, Banta City was placed in a very prominent position. The reason was very simple. It was because in this year's autumn harvest, Banta City's results were too outstanding, far surpassing the performance of the other cities in the kingdom. In this report, the Agriculture Department praised the current Banta City City Lord, Count Stark, saying that Banta City's greatest contributor in this year's autumn harvest should be given the highest reward. They also said that if every city in the kingdom could have this kind of yield, the Lampari kingdom would be able to break free from the problem of food in the next few years and their citizens would no longer be plagued by famine. After carefully looking over this report, Lampuri XIII suddenly gave a snort and gave a soft snort, as a cold smile appeared on his face. He picked up another report and after looking over it for a while, his lips curled slightly and the smile on his face turned to one of relief. This report was a secret report. It was thick and made up of dozens of sheets of paper. If Sui was here, he would definitely be shocked. Because in this thick report, it was all about the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. For this report, Lampuri XIII looked over it more carefully than the reports from the Army Department and the Agriculture Department. There were many times when he would stop to think before continuing. After spending close to an hour to finish reading the report, Lampuri XIII put down the report and leaned back in his chair. He closed his eyes in the warm sunlight and looked like he was planning on taking a nap, but based on his tightly knit brows and the twitching of his lips, it was clear that he was in deep thought. After a while, there were soft footsteps that came into the garden, waking Lampuri XIII from his thoughts. He didn't need to open his eyes to know that it must be his favorite daughter Seveni who came. "Royal Father, you actually have time to rest today?" The footsteps stopped in front of him, and Seveni's pleasantly surprised voice sounded. Lampuri XIII opened his eyes and revealed a gentle smile to Seveni. He pointed at the chair in front of him and had Seveni sit down. "Speak." When Seveni sat down, Lampuri XIII simply said. Seveni knew that her royal father didn't like wasting time, so she nodded and handed a document to Lampuri XIII. "It's related to that fellow Sui again?" Lampuri XIII didn't reach out to take it, rather he asked Seveni this with a teasing smile. Hearing the teasing in his voice, Seveni's face turned a bit red and she handed the document in her hand a bit closer to Lampuri XIII. "You'll know once you take a look." Lampuri XIII smiled and took the document. After looking it over, his expression became serious and he sat up straight. After he carefully looked over the report, after thinking for a bit, he asked Seveni with a serious look, "How confident are you?" Seveni thought for a bit before replying, "With my understanding of Sui, since he said this and seriously proposed this to you, I think that there is at least a 50% chance." "Good, if there is a 50% chance, it's worth it." Lampuri XIII looked down at the report in his hand again, and gave a self-deprecating laugh. "Hey, I never thought that the matter that I've worried about for over 10 years would be solved so easily in this kid's hands." He actually had ideas about the Principality of Constantine. Although I knew that the land in the Principality of Constantine was fertile and could produce large amounts of grain, I didn't have the strength to take it down, so I could only give up on this idea. 70 revealed a faint smile. Royal Father, Sui said that there are many things in this world that can be solved with money and there's no need to use force. Other than that, he also said that things that can be solved with money aren't considered big matters. Lampuri 13th couldn't help glaring at her. This kid says it so easily. His new flyer earns quite a bit of money, so of course he can boast like this, but how can our kingdom's finances be as rich as his company? If he has the skills, how can he make our entire Lampari kingdom earn money? 70 narrowed her eyes and said with a smile, Royal Father, what if Sui really has a way to make the kingdom rich? Lampuri 13th was surprised before looking at 70 with a frown. 70, I know that you've always admired Sui and I also agree that the magic machine industry led by the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce has changed the face of Banta City. But a country is different from a company or a city, it isn't that simple. How do you know if you don't try? 70 shook her head. Royal Father, our Lampari kingdom has been on the same path for several hundred years, but we haven't improved at all. Now that there's finally a possibility of change, why don't you make up your mind to try it? Lampuri 13th looked at 70 for a while before giving a sigh. How could I not understand this? But 70, there are many things in the kingdom that even I can't easily decide. I understand. 70 gave a nod. 70 gave a slight nod. I don't want you to make a large change, I just want you to help this change a bit. Lampuri 13th laughed. I knew it, you came to ask for benefits for that kid. If it wasn't for the fact that he was already married, I would have suspected that you were already planning to marry him. 70's face turned red, but she didn't refute anything. She just looked at Lampuri 13th. Royal Father, I'm serious. Sui is being treated like this by Count Stark, but he's still thinking about our kingdom. If we don't give him some support, he will definitely be disappointed. I feel that we can't lose him and the new flyer no matter what. It isn't that I don't agree, but you haven't said what benefits you're planning on getting for him, so how can I agree? Lampuri 13th said with a smile. If you're still asking for territory, then don't say anything, I won't agree. Last time I gave that kid a piece of territory, the royal parliament was in chaos. If I give it to him again, I will be annoyed to death. 70 paused before replying with a serious look. I hope that you can give the new flyer free trade rights. Lampuri 13th was stunned before saying in a sharp voice, That's impossible. Chapter 360. As the king and princess of the Lampari kingdom, the matters they considered and discussed were matters related to the entire Lampari kingdom. But for old man Ophelia and his son Archie, these matters weren't related to them at all. They only cared about one thing, which was the lives of their small family. Actually, to be honest, old man Ophelia's family was living a much better life compared to a few years ago. Although old man Ophelia still went hunting in the mountains when he had nothing to do, he no longer used the prey he hunted to exchange for some money to supplement his family's income. Rather, he just wanted to improve his life and use the delicacies of the mountains to eat. Because old man Ophelia's family no longer needed to rely on his hunting income to survive. Old man Ophelia's 3 sons and 2 daughters had all entered the factories of the various companies in Banta City to work. Each person received an average salary of over 10 gold coins a month, so their family's income was over 70 gold coins a month. This much money, it was something that their family couldn't earn in a year before. With the increase in income, old man Ophelia's family's life naturally became much better. Not only did old man Ophelia only hunt for food, the small thatched hut was also demolished. Like the other families in the village, They built a new 2-story brick and concrete house that everyone in Banta City approved of by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. At the same time, there were various household magic machines added to the family, making their lives countless times more comfortable than before. However, this good life had suddenly disappeared with the change of Banta City's city lord. Although it wasn't to the point where they could barely fill their stomachs, because the new city lord had implemented agricultural promotion policies, many companies in Banta City either moved their factories or closed them. In the end, 3 of old man Aphelia's 5 children had lost their jobs, and the other 2 had to run to the falling rain valley several dozen kilometers away to find work. Now their family's monthly income had gone from over 70 gold coins to over 20 gold coins. It had instantly shrunk by half, making their lives much harder. Of course, this income was much higher compared to before, but people's living standards were much higher compared to before. Suddenly going from a monthly income of over 70 gold coins to over 20 gold coins, it was without a doubt very difficult. The crux of the matter was that Aphelia's family had taken advantage of the increase in their income to settle their second son's marriage. At the same time, they had married off both of their daughters. This meant that they had gone from one family to several families, and the burden was much heavier than before. The more important problem was that his youngest son Archie was over 18 this year. According to the traditions of the village, if one didn't marry before 20, there would be gossip behind one's back. That brat Archie was able to get along with a girl from the village, and the 2 of them got along quite well. After old man Ophelia saw this girl, he was very satisfied. He was planning on arranging the marriage between the 2 of them this year or next year. But the girl's parents had given a condition at this time. They requested that Archie prepare a new house when he got married and that there should be all kinds of household magic machines in the new house, which had to be Shinfei brand. Normally speaking, this request wasn't too excessive because everyone's lives were much better now. The girls of Banta City all had similar requests when they got married. But the Naka Chamber of Commerce that Archie worked for before had moved to Canberra City that was over 100 kilometers away from Banta City. Archie wasn't willing to go, causing him to lose his job, so how could he take out such a large amount of money to fulfill these requests? Old man Ophelia and Archie estimated that if they wanted to fulfill the request of the girl's parents, they would have to take out at least 200 gold coins. Although old man Ophelia's family's income had been much better in the past 2 years, they had used it to improve their family's living standards, so they didn't have much savings. So the marriage between Archie and that girl was in a deadlock for now, and Archie's mood was becoming more and more depressed each day. Seeing the silent Archie sitting in front of him, old man Ophelia thought of his energetic and cheerful little son. He gave a long sigh in his heart before looking in the southwest direction. He secretly made up his mind and said, "Archie, this isn't the way to go on. You have to think of a way to solve this." Archie gave a bitter laugh and helplessly said, "How do we solve this? How could our family have that much money?" After pausing for a bit, a pained look appeared on his face before he continued, "How about we just forget about it? Leia's parents have raised such a high condition, so I won't marry her. Anyway, there are many girls in this world, I'll just find one in the future." "Don't speak nonsense." Old man Ophelia immediately reprimanded him. "Leia is a good girl and her parents' conditions can't be considered high since they want Leia to have a good life in the future. How about this, Archie, you don't need to stay in the village. Go to another place and find a good job to earn some money before coming back to marry Leia." Archie was stunned. "How can that be? Big brother and second brother have already moved out, so I have to stay and take care of you and mother." Old man Ophelia glared at him. "Your mother and I have hands and feet, why would we need you to take care of us? Listen to me, leave this place and find a good job. When you have money, Leia's parents will be assured in giving Leia to you." Archie saw the expression on old man Ophelia's face and knew that his father had already made his decision. He knew that refuting him would only make him angry, so he thought about it and said with a bitter smile, "But father, where should I find a job? The Falling Rain Valleys Company has already filled up, so I can't find a suitable job even if I want to, right? Then again, a salary of 10 gold coins a month isn't enough. If I want to save 200 gold coins, it would take at least 2 years. The Falling Rain Valley won't work, you have to go to a further place." Old man Ophelia shook his head. Archie was stunned. "Father, it can't be that you want me to work in the Black Rice Wasteland, right? Although the wages of those companies are quite high, that is the territory of the Beastmen, it is very dangerous. Of course I'm not willing to let you go to such a dangerous place. I'm saying that the place a bit further away is the Principality of Constantine," Old man Ophelia said. Archie was completely stunned this time. After a while, he said with a look of disbelief, "Father, you're actually agreeing to let me go to the Principality of Constantine? It would take at least a week to go there, and back even if we all took a horse carriage. If I go, it will be hard to come back. If something happens to you and Mother, I can't come back in time even if I want to." Old man Ophelia laughed. "Who said that you're going alone? Let me tell you, your mother and I will also be going this time. Didn't you see the new flyer and the Cantona Chamber of Commerce's joint recruitment notice in the Banta Times? As long as old farmers with rich experience like us are willing to move to the land the new flyer rents in the Principality of Constantine, the new flyer will directly give us 100 gold coins. Then we can become employees of the Cantona Chamber of Commerce, contracting the farmland. Not only can we keep the food we need each year, we can also earn 100 gold coins a year from the Cantona Chamber of Commerce. Just me and your mother can earn 200 gold coins a year." "Then what about me?" Archie asked back. "What will I do? I told you to read the Banta Times, and you didn't listen." Old man Ophelia looked at his son in disdain. Old man Ophelia looked at the new flyer with disdain. "The new flyer will also open a mine and a canned fruit factory in the Principality of Constantine. As long as you're willing to go, are you afraid you won't be able to find a job?" Archie carefully thought about it and couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. He asked old man Ophelia with difficulty, "But Dad, like this, wouldn't our family be moving away? Running to the Principality of Constantine to live? What are you worried about? Our house is still here. Who dares to tear it down?" Old man Ophelia looked in the direction of Banta City and gave a cold snort. "If it wasn't for that damn new city lord, we wouldn't need to move. But that damn fellow is making it hard for us, so what are we staying here for?" Archie looked at old man Ophelia in a daze, like it was his first time meeting him. This was his first time finding that even though his father was over 50 this year, he was more adventurous than a young man who wasn't even 20 yet. Leaving Banta City that he had lived in for several decades and running to a country that was over 1,000 kilometers away to start a new life, what kind of courage and perseverance did this require? If it wasn't for him being worried about his marriage with Leia, his father wouldn't have made this decision, right? Thinking of this, Archie couldn't help feeling a deep guilt in his heart, but then he thought of a very important problem. "But Dad, if our family moves to the Principality of Constantine, what will happen to Leia? If we're not here, Leia's family might let her find someone else to marry." Old man Ophelia laughed. "What? Kid, you keep mentioning Leia all day, but you didn't even ask about such an important matter. Let me tell you, I talked to Leia's father yesterday, and he told me that he has already decided to go to the Principality of Constantine to farm for the new flyer and the Cantona Chamber of Commerce. He even asked if I wanted to go with him." Archie's eyes lit up. Could it be that his family is also moving? Leia's father hasn't confirmed if his family is moving because Leia said to her father that she wants to stay with you. Hey kid, a girl that is so infatuated with you and you actually don't want her, you really don't know what's good for you. Archie was stunned. Looking at the mischievous look on old man Aphelia's face, other than sweetness in his heart, there was also a trace of shame and anger. In the end, he had been tricked by his own father. Chapter 361. The city lord's manor was still brightly lit at night. Although the busiest fall harvest had just ended, as the city lord of Banta City, Count Stag's work wasn't lacking at all. Different from the previous Count Samo, who liked to let his subordinates do things, Count Stag liked to have all the power in his hands, letting him make all the small and big decisions. He liked the feeling of being in control. However, the price he had to pay for this was that he was much busier than Samo Count. He had just finished a small meeting, and after he returned to his office in the city lord's manor, he didn't rest at all as he began working on official documents. Because the results of this year's fall harvest were outstanding, Banta City had received praise from both the king and the agriculture department. Count Stag had been specially praised by the kingdom's parliament, making his fame rise whether it was in the kingdom or in his family. He had become a new political star of the Stag family. But Count Stag was very clear on how much of his results were fake and how much of it was fake. So in order to make sure there weren't any problems, he had to spend a large amount of time and effort to deal with the aftermath. Because he was also very clear that although his family and his allies had pushed him to this position, letting him replace Count Samo as the city lord, the burden he carried was very important. Moreover, there were countless eyes from the other families that opposed his family. As long as he dared make the slightest mistake, there would be a wild storm waiting for him. Before leaving, the family head, who was also his blood-related big brother Duke Stag, had clearly told him that if he didn't take care of this matter well, and there were any problems, the family would definitely throw him out as a sacrifice when necessary. So Count Stag had been very strong after coming to Banta City. He wanted to make sure that the family behind him and his allies were satisfied with his results, while also stopping the mouths of those who doubted him. Of course, that was on the premise that there were no mistakes. There were many key parts of the aftermath that couldn't be done by others. Count Stag had to personally take care of it. It was a good thing that his family had given him a lot of support on this. For example, the data from Banta City was clearly fake, but with the family's control over the agriculture department didn't do a detailed test on this data at all. They just went through the motions and approved of this data, making this data stand out among all the cities in the Lampari Kingdom. Based on this data, not only did Count Stag's fame soar, in the kingdom's parliament, the agriculture department led by the Stag family took the upper hand. When they were arguing, the most favorable example this faction took out was the grain yield data of Banta City. Because according to the calculations of the agriculture department, as long as they followed Banta City's policies, the kingdom's grain yield would greatly increase in the kingdom's grain yield. If they could reach the level of Banta City, the Lampuri Kingdom would only need 3 to 5 years to get rid of the famine, and they would even have a surplus of food each year. Everyone had to admit that the most important factor in maintaining the stability of a country was letting the citizens fill their stomach. As long as the citizens could survive, the Lampari Kingdom wouldn't fall into chaos like it did 10 years ago. As long as the Lampari Kingdom didn't fall into chaos and continued to recuperate, it would slowly become stronger. This was the truth of the signs, so the other faction that opposed the Stag family couldn't come up with any arguments to refute this. Even the king approved of the Stag family's view, but he made some reservations and didn't say that agricultural development was the most important factor. Unexpectedly, just a few days ago, the Lampari Kingdom's business department suddenly announced a new decision. In order to promote the development of business in the Lampari Kingdom, they decided to give free trade rights to some companies in the kingdom. The meaning of this free trade right was to allow these companies to freely trade with other countries without needing to report to the business department or the kingdom's parliament. It allowed these companies to be more flexible when trading with other countries, saving them quite a bit of time. Of course, the products they traded with didn't have to be on the prohibited trade list of the kingdom, and they would have to pay taxes to the kingdom. As each city in the kingdom had a different tax rate, for the sake of convenience, these merchants that had obtained the right to trade with other countries would have to pay taxes directly to the kingdom's treasury and not be included in any city in the kingdom. When this policy was announced, everyone understood that the king was looking for a way to solve the kingdom's finances. He was trying to take a part of the kingdom's finances from the various cities to fill the kingdom's finances. But the Lampari kingdom's business wasn't developed and there were only a few companies that could trade with other countries, so this policy didn't affect most of the companies and cities in the kingdom at all. Naturally, there weren't many voices of opposition. On the list of companies that obtained free trade rights, the New Flyer was on the list. At first Count Stagg, who was Banta City's city lord, didn't care that much because he knew that Sui had a close relationship with Her Highness Seveni. New Flyer was also highly regarded by Her Highness Seveni and the king, so it was natural for New Flyer to obtain free trade rights through this relationship. But when Count Stagg calculated Banta City's revenue with the remainder of his staff, he was surprised to find that the New Flyer obtaining free trade rights had a large impact on Banta City. According to the tax statistics of Banta City from the City Lord Manor, in the past 2 years, the New Flyer had only been paying a few hundred gold coins a month in taxes, but it had been quickly growing. In this year, the New Flyer had been paying over 200,000 gold coins a month in taxes. In June, they had paid a shocking 430,000 gold coins in taxes, even surpassing the large companies in Banta City. They had taken a large part of Banta City's revenue. Starting in July, the taxes paid by the New Flyer had plummeted. In July, it went from 430,000 gold coins to 260,000 gold coins. In August, it fell to 190,000 gold coins, and in September and October, it barely surpassed 100,000 gold coins. Was the New Flyer evading taxes? Of course that was impossible. The reason why this situation occurred was because the New Flyer had been forced by Count Stagg to move almost all of their businesses to the Falling Rain Valley. And because the king had given the Falling Rain Valley and the surrounding land to Sui as his viscount, according to the rules of the royal parliament, all the income from a noble's private territory belonged to the noble. The noble only needed to pay a certain amount of taxes to the kingdom's treasury. They didn't need to be responsible to anyone else in the kingdom. So after the New Flyer moved to the Falling Rain Valley, other than a part of their business through Banta City, they didn't need to pay taxes to Banta City for most of their income. Now that the New Flyer had obtained the right to free trade, according to the rules of the business department, the New Flyer's business with the other countries on the continent would be directly paid to the kingdom's treasury, so Banta City wasn't qualified to meddle in this. So in summary, although the New Flyer was still a Banta City company in name, only the New Flyer's service center and the new concept Magic House in Banta City needed to pay taxes to Banta City. The other businesses didn't need to care about Banta City's City Lord Manor. The New Flyer's development speed could be seen by everyone. Recently, they had many business deals with the Kingdom of Roer and the Principality of Constantine, while also cooperating with the Beastmen on the Black Rice Wasteland. If nothing unexpected happened, the New Flyer would develop faster and faster and their profits would become higher and higher. Correspondingly, Banta City would have one less important tax that would become more and more important. Even if Count Stagg promoted agriculture policies, he was very clear in his heart that for Banta City, most of the taxes were paid by the large companies. If it wasn't for his position, after he became Banta City's city lord, he would have developed business and agriculture like the previous Count Samo. But now, because of his position and the help of the Stag family and his allies, the new flyer had been forced out of Banta City. This bitter fruit that he had personally planted could only be borne by him. Other than the new flyer, there were many Banta City companies that had lost confidence in Banta City because of the agriculture promotion policies. There were companies that left Banta City for other cities like the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and the other large companies that followed the new flyer to the Black Rice Wasteland, the Kingdom of Ruhr, and the Principality of Constantine to invest. And in the first batch of companies that had obtained free trade rights, other than the new flyer, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, the Armani Chamber of Commerce, and the Serene Chamber of Commerce were also included. Count Stag had his subordinates calculate the business of these companies and finally came to a conclusion. With the new flyer leaving Banta City's monthly tax income had decreased by at least 300,000 gold coins. Now that these 4 companies had obtained free trade rights, Banta City's tax income had decreased by at least 200,000 gold coins. Last month, Banta City's total tax income was just over 500,000 gold coins, which was equal to losing half. This hit was without a doubt heavy. The current Banta City had returned to how it was a few years ago. It could no longer be called the Lampari Kingdom's fastest developing city. The more important thing was that the large decrease in taxes meant that Banta City had regressed under Count Stag's governance. This was a heavy blow to the conservative faction led by the Stag family. So while Count Stag was dealing with the fall harvest, he was also racking his brains on how to increase Banta City's tax income to avoid this situation. While he was busy with work, Count Stag saw the next document and his eyes suddenly shrank. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.